All right, welcome. Let's start our 12:35, assuming that clock's right. This is Monday, September 18th, work session with Weber County Commissioners. Joining me is Commissioner Sharon Bolos to my right, Commissioner Jim Hardy to my left. I'm Commissioner Gage, probably conducting. We're going to start with our first agenda item, which is discussion or action for approval of the minutes for the work session held on September 11th, 2023. I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Let's go to our 12:30 agenda item, which is the Ogden City Active CRA RDA presentation.
Before we do that, Mr. Chair, I'd like to have a personal privilege.
Go ahead.
Certainly not my place, but I usually butt in line or take somebody's place anyway, so.
Yeah, we're
it's
used
easy
to it,
for me.
yeah.
Want to welcome into the room today, Jackson Bolos, who's a guest in the back row, just sitting
Is he
there.
your guest?
Is your guest?
Not my guest, just wanted to welcome into the room today is all.
Yeah, welcome. You're welcome to come up to the table too, if you'd like. Okay. All right, anything else, Commissioner Harvey?
And we always like having Stephanie here. That's it.
That's all?
Yeah, oh, and you too. John,
I
Stephanie.
knew which Stephanie when you're.
I was just prepared to introduce them. Okay, so with us is Stephanie Russell, Sean Wilkinson, Mr. John Bond, Scott Parks not here, Brandon Quinney, Chris Crockett, Stephanie Ebert, Brandon Cooper. Okay, Brandon, welcome. This is your show, I hear, so
Well, thank you for allowing this.
appreciate you being here.
I also have Damon Burnham with me, the redevelopment manager.
Damon, how are you?
Good.
So I have a presentation. We're getting that loaded now. I sent two and I asked you to guess which one was correct. You guessed wrong. So we're gonna load up the other one. That's my fault.
No, it's all right. I gone to Christie, I think, before we got the second one. I thought we sent her the right one.
That's probably for me.
Is Quinney coming? He's on my schedule. Do you know if Brandon Quinney's coming?
I don't think he is. He's working on bond stuff.
Is he? Okay. All right, well, don't get us into legal problems. Brandon will be fine.
Should be smooth sailing.
But we've got Mr. John Bond with us, so that's all we need.
Yeah. Speaking.
He's
of-
almost better than an attorney.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Copper too.
Can't fall off the floor.
We waiting for that to load? What we doing?
Yeah, Christie's loading it up right now.
Okay.
Like a slot.
This is something you can share with us as far as an email or something.
Your email and the conference run. Which one do you want us?
It's kind of the bulk of the presentation, so.
It's gonna take a lot of notes. Oh, if I get a copy of it.
Yeah, I sent it to those two, but not to you, so I'll do that right now.
That'd be great.
Got all four with you right now.
Oh, thanks. Yep, that's it. Okay,
Is that it?
yes.
Okay.
And then you can let Brandon drive.
So I will say that a portion of this is fairly perfunctory. We've talked about this many times. All of you have extensive RDA experience, I'm sure. Commissioner, you and I we've spent the least amount of time
Yes.
together. So I wrote this with you in mind a little bit, so that
Thank
we
you.
could get on the same page and you could have a little bit of background that the others might have had the
Great, thank
benefit
you.
of having otherwise. just open it and share the.
Not coming up?
I can just drop it on the desktop. Yeah, I was thinking that other people or Watson. This one be recorded on Zoom.
All right,
Okay,
up and running.
thank you, appreciate it. Okay, as I mentioned, rudimentary, so we'll go through it quickly. We have in our portfolio of RDAs a number of definitions, and I've listed them here. The current one is the CRA, Community Reinvestment Area. It's slightly different than the others that you might see. We have RDAs, we actually have every one of those old designations, but the current version is Community Reinvestment Area. And there's kind of two tracks, one that allows you to determine what's called a development impediment through a study. And there's one track where you don't go down that road. And so by and large, we generally go down this process unless we absolutely foresee the need for eminent domain. We don't study development impediments. And that's why you would do that, is to seek eminent domain. But the CRA law does allow that. For Ogden City, we have 13 project areas, and that's the mix. We have 7 RDAs. Those are largely the old versions. We have 1 community development area, 2 community reinvestment areas, 2 economic development areas, and 1 urban renewal area. And I was going to bring our annual report and give you a printed copy, but we were out doing some things before the meeting, so I'll email it to you. You'll have the full annual report.
Great.
We always include this in our discussions, just to kind of describe how tax increment works. There's a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunication in the world of tax increment. And a lot of times people fail to realize that at the time of creation, that base year is set and that base year valuation is frozen in time. And it's really that capture of the new appraised value that generates the tax increment. And that's what is the result of targeted investment. RDAs work best when there is a gap in development opportunity. And there's lots of gaps and lots of reasons for gaps, and we'll talk about some of them in a minute. But it's really a tool that's best used to fill that gap that the market can't otherwise fulfill itself. We have a couple of areas that are sunsetting this year as of our reporting. We're kind of a year in arrears, so we've put those away, and we'll be coming to the council or to the RDA board with a formal process to sunset, and then we send that to the county. The county gets that on their records to close out and no longer report for. So those are the 3 that we will be doing soon. During COVID, the state passed a law that allowed RDAs to extend some at their discretion for 2 years based on COVID. So these were the RDAs out of the 13 or 15 that we had at the time that we've extended. And I believe we sent that resolution to the county back then as well.
I believe that stuff.
I know you can't read this, but this is a list of all the RDAs, and we kind of look at what the snapshot in time is. So this isn't based on 2022 tax year, and we look at say Ogden River, for instance, established in 22, original expiration date is 27, now it's 29. The original base value is 10 million. As of 2022, it was valued at 51 million, which was a 71%, or excuse me, which was a $41 million added value over time. And so that annual average growth of 20% is key for us, because we look at it in comparison to what that project area would have done historically over time, as well as what it would have otherwise done had we not reinvested in that area. And so we have significant growth numbers in active project areas that we're looking at, and and actively reinvesting in it. And here's just a couple, track line was established in 13. That's where the old stockyards, were. Now it's the Ogden Business Exchange. It had a base year of, it was 124 acres, I believe, had a base year of $11 million. So it was significantly, underdeveloped. It had a terrible amount of blight associated with it, the stockyards did. And as of 2022, it was valued at 44 million, so additional $33 million valuation in just about, 9 years. So in its entire existence, it was only valued at 11 million, and in 9 years, we were able to grow that 3 times as
In
much.
your annual report,
4 times.
Brandon, do you break out what the investment criteria was, or the investment categories, like we brought in this, and these are improvements? Do you guys do that in your annual report? 'Cause I know the commission's kind of interested in seeing like how it's transitioned and the process by which it transitioned and the actual
Yeah.
investment process.
So I'll have some pictures here in a minute, and I can speak to that.
Okay,
Can you go back one slide for me, please?
Mhm.
you see that, Jim?
You can see it up close.
Thank you.
There was question.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Okay, okay, keep going.
So the reason why we think this is a perfect tool, because this is something that we talked about a long time ago. Tax increment, when used correctly, is just a reduction of government regulation. If you look at property taxes as government regulation, and then the rebate of property taxes back to a project that has a significant market gap, then it's really just a reduction of that government regulation that's allowing that project to go forward. And so we think it's a perfect tool because of that reason. And again, if used right, there's a common misconception that it robs participating entities of taxes that otherwise would have been there, and that's just not the case. Again, especially for Ogden, because there is such a significant development gap. There are cases across the state where that's not true, where development would have occurred in the same manner and in the same pace than it would have without, with property tax investment or incentive.
And so you don't think that's true for Ogden
No, not
at all, in any case?
Not in the cases of the ones that have been established since about 2002. The others prior to that, we can see some of those 13 project areas that have lingered and gone stagnant. And so not in every case is that true in Ogden City even, but since 2002, I know for sure that the things that we've incentivized via tax increment would not have happened otherwise.
Okay.
Or in the manner in which we help them to happen.
Okay,
And this is kind of one of those ideas that is built into our thinking lately, with the Make Ogden plan and with our new downtown zoning code and with our new general plan update. We're building in this vision of value and density. And tax increment allows that to happen in a manner that sometimes the market doesn't allow for, especially with value, because right now costs are so high, people are building down, not up. They need to have a pro forma make sense, and so the first thing that they do is you have a fixed value of rents, and so in order to make your yield work, you have to get your costs reduced, because that fixed value of rents is what the market tells you you're going to get. And so tax increment has the ability to increase value and in some cases increase density. There has been some talk about this idea that it raises taxes. In fact, it lessens taxes in cases where, and you gave a really good presentation on the tax shift. And so we're in a new world now, and we haven't quite fully analyzed that, but previously, when we were able to incentivize commercial projects to be bigger and better, or even to happen in the first place, then because of that ratio between commercial and residential, it actually helped the tax equation and theoretically would lower the burden on residential properties. I don't know how that works today yet because of that tax shift, but A lot of our projects now, we're looking at, either corporate tax increment or mixed use projects, and so they have a large element of residential in most cases. We've been able to grow our revenues and decrease our tax rate since 2010, largely because of the use of tax increment. And so that's another reason why it doesn't rob participating entities of tax shield. And I think this is a perfect example of that. And then again, as we're looking at how to help growth happen in a smart way, most communities that don't have an RDA or that don't have other funds like it or other tools like it, they're left to support economic development policies and priorities with taxpayer funded money, general fund money. This is TIF is taxpayer money, but the way that we've done it for the longest time is that the project, whatever the project generates is what the project gets. We don't carve out other projects and apply increment to it. There's a couple of exceptions. The junction is an exception where we had 10 haircut districts that provided income to the CBD mall district to help pay for the debt at the junction. And then track line, we actually have a larger area that was used to then fund the stockyards. But for the most part, projects that generate the increment receive the increment and they don't borrow from their neighbors. So it really isn't taxpayer money other than that taxpayer's money. And there hasn't been a project in downtown or in Ogden until about 2 or 3 years ago of any significant value that was not assisted with tax increment. In the last couple of years, we've seen this phenomenon with commercial apartment buildings, and there's a very distinct difference between the apartment buildings and the other commercial buildings that were being built in the community without any assistance from the government versus those that were getting some kind of tax increment assistance. There's a significant difference in value and in design and in density and purpose and use. And so the tool of tax increment allows us to take the market, and if it's going in the direction that we hope it to go, that is beneficial to our community, that's helping us achieve our goals, then we just allow that to happen. We don't want to get involved because it's doing its job. But when we see projects that are doing things that aren't in line with what we see the community needing or ideal situation, then those are the ones that we would likely want to get involved. And those are really good examples of those. So here's kind of to where your question was, Stephanie. So this is the aerial picture of the stockyards. The one on the left is about 2013. The one on the right would have been 2021, probably, maybe late 22. And so we picked up this 51-acre site, generally through the use of development partnership, TIF, and BDO lease revenue funds. We did an environmental abatement with that money. We, as you can tell, we built Stockman Way. We enhanced Exchange Road. We brought in a water line from Wall and 22nd under Wall Avenue, under the rail yard, and then down south under the river to serve this area. And it punches out on D Avenue here, which will then carry up D Avenue up to 24th and then serve part of West Ogden. So overall, there is about $12 million worth of public investment into, not including the buildings, just infrastructure investment in this area to take it from what it was to what it is today, not including land acquisition. And that wouldn't have been possible with without tax increment. In fact, since the 70s, when they decommissioned the stockyards, that's what the market did to this property, is that the market couldn't figure out how to remediate the site, how to bring the utilities in, how to deal with the river, how to deal with access. They couldn't do it for 40 years. We had two other major corporate proposals over the last 20 years prior to that even with the idea of tax increment, couldn't figure it out.
Did
So-
you guys use brownfield at all?
No,
No?
no, we entered into the DCP for the cleanup, but we
Yeah.
didn't get any brownfields money.
Really?
And Swift is a whole different, story. I'll get to Swift in just a minute. Oh, here it is.
The saga.
It's saga.
John loves this story.
Yep, it is a story.
My grandpa used to work there. He worked there his whole life.
That's what he said.
His whole life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said that last time.
I didn't hear the whole life part.
That's what he did.
Greg Montgomery has fun stories about the shift change where they would wash the kill floor and the river would turn red and all the seagulls would come.
Oh
A 15-year-old boy,
Disgusting.
he loved that kind of thing back in the day. Well, the Swift building was iconic, in terms of its location and just the fact that every time you passed the viaduct, you were greeted by that old building. And people loved it, but, Bert Smith had owned it for many, many years and it was a viable, sales facility. You might remember when he sold boats out of the basement. And people could go there and it was just an extension of what you see up north. But over time, he just used it as a storage house and he stored some interesting things. After he passed away, we had already purchased a number of properties from him. And we were dealing with Kathy. Kathy knew nothing about what was in that building. She hadn't dealt with his business dealings. And so it's a long story, but we ended up finding out that there were materials being stored in there that had they gotten wet, they would have exploded. So it was a significant environmental and public safety hazard. So whatever you've heard in the media and rumor is not true. We knew what we were getting into. We had done what we could do in terms of the initial assessment. But given the way that the building was, there was no way for us to fully assess the building initially. So it wasn't until after we bought it that we could actually get in there, tear some things apart and really find out. So all told, with acquisition, demo, and environmental remediation, we're into this site probably $7 million. And it's worth land, raw land, it's worth about, I would say,
The city's investment is 7?
$2 million. I put this up here because there's zero money of tax increment into this. All of the tax increment that's in the Trackline EDA is committed to the developer because they were the ones that put the risk up for the initial investment. But the city would not have been able to come to the table with their own $7 million on the Swift building had we not dealt with the Trackline first and had it not been a going concern by the time we got to this. We couldn't have reversed that order and been successful. And so the TIF that was involved in the stockyard is the lever to get to the $7 million that the city invested. And without it, it just wouldn't have happened. We'd still have both, most likely. And then there's a number of other things happening around that area. The city put in $300,000 bike park just on the north side of the stockyards there. That's currently in its second phase of design. So if you ride a bike, that's kind of fun to go check out. There's some of the skills park there that we built, but it goes through the bank area and there's some single track there. These are apartments over by the Ogden River. The Ogden River CRA, I think it is, was established in 2002. If you remember that part of town, it's a 60-acre project area from Wall to Washington, 18th to 20th. And it was mostly shotgun houses that were substandard, a few commercial businesses, heavily laden with environmental concerns up against Washington, especially, and a little bit on Wall. And so through.
What's a shotgun house?
It looks like it goes straight, like you could stand at the front door and shoot a shotgun through it and hit and go out the back door. They're like boxes.
A tiny shack.
I never heard that term.
Yeah, shack.
It's a southern term.
Oh.
Is it really? I don't know that. Well, they weren't good, and the people living in them were living in substandard conditions, and we ended up buying, between us and a couple of different parties.
Your evaluation experience.
I don't say the GL word, but,
I just did.
that's what it
I talked to you about 3 or 4 months ago.
Really? Oh, good for you. Yeah, we had developers at the time that, we worked with that, again, leveraged some money, the use of tax increment. We were able to buy over 60 homes, tear them down. We did the remediation. And through a various number of arrangements, we were able to incentivize some townhomes that at the time, townhomes weren't as prevalent as what we see now. They're just starting to come out of the ground and get finished, but back then, a couple of years ago, they were still a difficult thing to deal with. And so we're getting some quality housing there. This is Slackwater here. Slackwater used to live there. Striders used to live there. No, not Striders, Bingham's. So the phase 1 townhomes are here. There's, Dirty Bird, which no longer is there, but we have, Wimpy and Fritz, if you've eaten some good tacos there.
Was there a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. With
The
the use,
Ogden breweries there.
yeah,
Brewery.
I ride my bike down there all the time.
That's where you had your Ogden brewery.
My audition.
some of you might remember that we had the Ogden River Inn here. The Mike Moyle.
Michael Well,
Mhm.
after that.
And again, without the use of tax increment as a tool, that hotel would still be there, and it was there for all of our lives, probably. That thing was old, and it wasn't good. It was one of the highest calls for service that we had in the city because of the way that, he chose to run business. And it's right on the entrance to our downtown, the iconic sign. Every picture you see of the Ogden sign, you see the Ogden River Inn sign behind it. And it just wasn't indicative of the community that we want to portray. So if it wasn't for tax increment, we wouldn't have been able to do a deal to get that to be demolished. We spent another $250,000 of non-increment money, but city money, to move that big giant sign, that was right here. We moved it a block ahead. We actually spent more than that. We bought the old Hoffman cleaner for $770,000, not TIF,
BDO.
but BDO money. We tore it down, moved the sign, and now we're going to redevelop that site too. So tax increment very seldom is the thing that gets us home on things, but it is a huge lever.
The Hoffman Cleaner was the second building in. What'd you do with the corner building?
It was owned by Hoffman. We tore it all down.
Oh, they had ended up buying that then, because they didn't own it always.
Yeah, it was a
The
block.
Gambles owned it before then.
Who was it?
The Gambles was their name. Jeannie Gamble. That's 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, they owned it when we got it. So there's some, colored pictures of how that looks. It looks like that today, but in real life. That's what's being built now currently where the,
I
Ogden
saw that
River
this
Inn.
morning, that front corner is just getting shaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And so a deal like this is essentially written up on our part to fill the gap. So townhomes could have been built here, but they would have been built in a lower density manner, with a lower level of, finish and quality, which is what we're seeing elsewhere in town. And so we, struck a deal with Lotus on this particular piece, using tax increment that he generated off of this project here to then go back into the project essentially as a property tax rebate for a period of time that is consistent with the remaining term of the district. And that was enough for him to make it work, especially on a rental. These are currently being rented, but they're built to be sold as the market changes. But as a rental, you can get your rent covers the property tax payment because the property tax is just an expense, right? And so when you look at renters paying the property tax, and you get a rebate of that, that's new money that comes back into your NOI. And so it really changes the way a pro forma works, when it comes to rentals especially. We could talk all day about Wonder Block. Wonder Block, is probably one of our most, if not the most ambitious projects that we've undertaken in the city. We probably said that about the junction at the time, and it was at that time, but we've we've increased our risk exposure 3 times at Wonder Block, than Junction. We bonded for $20 million at the Junction, Wonder Block 64 plus the parking, which isn't entirely associated with it, but largely so. So without tax increment, this project wouldn't be possible. Our original design of this was much, much different and much less impactful to the downtown environment than what you see here. And that's because we just didn't have the tool available to us at that time. And we have some great development partners that are willing to also take the bulk of the risk.
Where are you guys at on that project?
We are just about ready to go to the pricing committee for our bond. The developer is just getting close to getting his financing all locked down so that we can hopefully get all of the financing closed in November. And our first phase is the parking structure that is right back here.
So you're gonna put the parking structure in first?
Yeah, because it's a standalone structure and it's our building, so we can be building that while they start doing other stuff.
So what's the status of your developer? Are they financially on board now? We've heard, there hasn't been anything that happened on that block for what, 3 years now, maybe 4?
It's a complex
And
project.
We've heard that basically your developer doesn't have any skin in the game or doesn't have financial capability. Is that true or not true?
That's 100%
So
false.
why hasn't it happened then?
Well, these projects just take a lot of time to figure out.
Well, usually good developers will make things happen.
Oh, they're making things happen.
Okay. Well, if you drive by there today, I don't think you'll see much going on, Brandon. I drive by there quite a bit, so.
You should come to my office.
We've heard that story for the last 2 years, so I guess what I'm saying is it gonna happen or not?
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we sit here a year from now, you won't be telling us the same story that it will happen,
I hope not.
okay?
We're on track.
I hope so too.
Like I said, pricing in November and financing.
And we've committed on this,
Yeah,
Tip, haven't we?
yeah, we're.
Yeah,
we are
signing
committed.
sales.
Clock's running,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay?
and we worked out an extension that would allow for the delays.
that was
and those kind of things.
the
Okay.
extension we built in, so. The parking deck though, that's completely separate from the developer on this project.
No,
Oh, it's
I don't
not,
think
okay.
so.
you said completely. It is a separately owned, separately financed
Okay.
thing.
Yeah,
this parking
that's what I
structure.
meant, yeah.
But no, it all goes together. And I get your questions, Commissioner, because it's hard to keep hearing about a project and driving by and seeing nothing. But if you were in my shoes, you would see the reality of it all, and that is
Okay.
that we have one of the best developers in the state. They have put a ton, 7 figures, multiple 7 figures into the deal over the last number of years. We've been working on this for almost 6 years. And when you're trying to crack the code on something that no one's ever done in Ogden, it takes a long time. There's lots of variables when it comes to not just the design and getting that right, but the financing and the procurement of everything and the bidding and the cost adjustments and the politics and all that stuff. So I get your hesitancy, but whatever you're hearing is not the truth. What I'm telling you is the truth. And if you want more details, we can.
Well, I think there's a concern out there. I think you heard it a lot from the members that were hoping to be the new mayor in terms of the controversy with
Yeah.
not only this, but some others. And I don't think you can disagree. Financial situation has changed over the last 5 or 6 years. The market's changed,
Yeah,
4 or 5 years ago, you could borrow from famous John Bond over here, probably 2 or 3%. He's not gonna give you money today
you're right.
for probably under 5.5 or 6. So,
You're right.
I mean, so if they didn't make it, my question is this, they didn't make it happen at 2.5, 3% rates. How can they
How
make
can
it
they do
happen
it
at
at
6%?
6?
The market's shifted.
Yeah, and the developer has never been the cause for time. It's generally been the city going through our due diligence and working through the parking pro formas and, and our commitment to the project, not the developer.
And that's why I asked about the parking, because,
Yeah.
you guys are rolling out, when do you plan on rolling out your actual parking plan for the downtown? Because that's part of how this project's being funded, is some of it, a portion of that. So I was just curious what the timeline was on that.
So again, we're not commingling it, so the parking structures that are being introduced here
Mhm.
are part of our downtown parking plan,
Okay,
but they are being, so the parking revenue is generated to pay for the debt on the structures, not the structures. But it is part of the whole
Okay.
system, because you can't just drop a giant paid parking structure in the middle of a free environment and expect it to work. So as far as rollout goes, we are looking to procure the technology that's necessary to convert the streets to paved, early next year.
okay,
And then start to roll that out in 23 into 24, first phase. The parking structure should be done by 25.
18 months from, yeah, this November.
Yeah,
okay.
so they'll kind of come online fairly closely. But it's a 3.5 year project total.
So is the policy still gonna be in place to go to paid parking?
And that's been adopted.
Mhm.
Just
Oh,
to-
that has been,
Yeah, just to verify for the commission.
Yeah, so
okay,
despite what you've heard, there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and no one really talks to us about that, they just talk, right? So we're in it every day, we see what's being done by ourselves and the developers, so if you ever want to know exactly what the truth is, just give us a call, we'll be happy to tell you.
good to know.
So you're gonna break ground on that parking structure quarter one of next year?
We want to be in the dirt before the end of this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
we wanna get a jump on winter, if we can, you know, major excavation. I mean, we're gonna be pouring concrete all through the winter months twice, but, we'd like to get a jump on it.
And that was city bond funding, just to verify.
That's the-
Yeah.
And that's going on the north side of that property?
There's two publicly owned parking structures, one on the east side, one on the, kind of the west side.
Oh, okay,
1,130 stalls.
so east and west.
So, this is Grant right here, and this is, what's that? Oh, yeah,
That's 26th.
That's 26, so that's the courthouse here.
That's 26th and Lincoln.
yeah, Lincoln.
Oh, that's Lincoln,
Yeah.
okay.
So 26, so, the parking structure is over here,
The first one.
the first one, the other one's built into all this.
Mhm.
So there's the entrance to the second parking structure.
Hold on, Lincoln's where?
This is Lincoln,
This is looking northeast.
Hey,
Lincoln 26, so this
Okay.
is the grocery store. Actually, the other parking entrance is over here, that's the grocery entry. So you'll enter off of Grant to get into this parking structure, which is a standalone traditional structure. The other one is actually built as a podium into this building here.
Is that access, public access?
From Lincoln,
What's your total stalls for the two?
1,134. You're all familiar with Donkey Arts. That was, again, this is in the Adams, CRA. We used non-TIF money to buy the old Colonial Court Inn. Again, one of our highest calls for service in the city for crime and other things. So we ended up buying that for almost $1 million, tearing it down. And then with, money from the Dumkies and tax increment and other city money, we were able to build a plaza, which we think is pretty cool.
That's 25th, right?
25th and Adams.
Adams.
Ogden, Adams. There's a rendering, it looks almost just like that, actually, it's pretty awesome. The Monarch is a recipient of tax increment. Dane came to us and said, this is an old dilapidated building, I have a really cool idea, but I can't do it unless you provide some assistance, so we entered into an agreement. I believe that's like 1.1, 1.2 of tax increment over 20 years. I'm just trying to remember roughly.
Yeah, flea market tax credits for also,
Yeah,
which is
It was
pretty
a
rare,
creative-
so it was a good staff.
and wonderful thing too, because he moved right into COVID, which was very difficult for an event center. But again, we turned a building that the market turned its back on for years and years and years. That thing was vacant. It turned into, I think there was a taco shop in there once or twice. It couldn't do it by itself.
Was out there, was it Bubba's there for a minute?
What was Bubba?
It
it was a
was, yeah.
barbecue place.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there was a Thai restaurant, there was all kinds of stuff.
Certainly not this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna bring Bubba's back, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Digital art, that's the way. Thank you to the newspaper.
On this one?
Bubbles.
Oh, Bubba's, yeah. Speaking of hard times, this was, same kind of a thing. Standard Examiner building, the Kiesel building, whatever you wanna call it. It's one of the most beautiful buildings in the city. Had a number of offices in it, when Lotus bought it. The building next door is now renovated into what formerly was Bot Pantone Architecture, so they received a little assistance to deal with a sewer problem that they couldn't deal with otherwise, so together it really invigorated this block. We were able to buy some stuff in the back, as you know, with the help of you all. And so this block is totally different than it was 10 years ago. Tower View was one of the first apartment buildings in the city. And other than the church, is the only one that has podium type parking. Everything else has surface parking, which we're trying to get away from. And so now one of our major targets for tax increment assistance, your eligibility, if it's an apartment, you have to deal with structured parking somehow to be eligible. So we helped them to the tune of about $1 million, and they were able to make the structured podium style parking work, and that is a wonderful building.
Good addition, I agree.
Yep. Perry Lofts, again, that was converted from a Section 8 tax credit project to market rate, and it's been sold now a couple of times, so that received some assistance because it just wouldn't work, and we felt like that was eligible because it was taking some units, some really low end in terms of quality and low end in terms of subsidy into the market. As you know, Ogden City has way more low income units than anyone else in the county. John Watson was a recipient of the South Wall CBD. He was a recipient to do some of his work there, which was well before COVID and really started a ripple effect there. We had Watson do it, and then we had Ford do some things, and then we had Hyundai do some things. So we were trying to reinvigorate that section of town as our auto malls kind of section, like Riverdale Drive used to have, and so that was helpful. Winco would not exist without tax increment. That spurred some development that allowed us to then use some money to do environmental remediation. There were 7 underground leaking storage tanks here. Wow. So that's just a few. Like I said, anything that's significant in the last 20 to 25 years that's happened in Ogden has only happened because we have the blessing of this tool that we all participate in it. And as you've seen in your own accounting and in your own fund, in your own budgets, as we retire these things, we retire them at a higher value than they otherwise would have reached on their own had we just let the market do its own thing. That's a proven fact. All without raising taxes and all without taking money from the entities that they otherwise would have had. And so we want to keep using it. We think it's a viable tool. Not every agency in the state uses it wisely, but I think we're good stewards of this tool. I think we have good partnerships, and I think we're building the tax base in a way that avoids you having to do truth in taxation through new growth and other things that you would have to do politically. It's a bit of a savings account because it does take time to generate, but if you spread it across the same amount of years, the only way that you would have been able to capture that same value is if you would have done a political act on certain occasions over the same period. So unionization is going to be a huge deal in terms of using tax increment. It can't happen without it. Capitol Square is where the old Rite Aid and Wheelwright Lumber is. We have some significant public improvements.
How'd you get that name, Capitol Square
Capitol Street comes
there?
right through it.
I didn't realize Capitol Street went that far west. Okay. Yeah, I've seen, do you have those renderings here with you again? Is that still moving?
It's under construction. I don't have the renderings, but
Okay,
you'll see the building hopefully soon. They're doing site work right now.
good.
With the airport, there's an RDA across the street of the temple on the east side. There isn't one on the north side. We are thinking potentially of needing one at the Newgate Mall because of the situation that they're in.
Is there a situation?
Where is their situation?
It's just, it's an old mall. It's not viable. We lose tenants. We have empty
Huge
space.
piece of real estate.
It's a giant piece of real estate. It's mostly parking.
Where do you see it in 5 years?
I think because they've upsold it a number of times in the last 10 years that they have to keep trying or they're gonna lose a huge amount of money. It's not quite to the point where there's a clear redevelopment path that I can see. Maybe they do, I don't know. They do have some decent tenants, they're dealers, of course. They own their own space. They're not a tenant of the mall, although they kind of rely on it. So if Dillard's can stay strong and we can keep some smaller things around it, I think it's good. If Dillard's goes away, I don't see it surviving. I would like to get most of our retail, mid-box, big box retail on 12th Street, where it currently mostly is. And then redevelop the Newgate Mall into something that's a bit more consistent for that area.
What is consistent for that area?
Well, it's,
Would you carry it through from Riverdale Road and bookend that?
yeah, I mean, you can look at some more, mid-box, big box retailers, but there's just not very many of those, especially when we have vacant ground on 12th Street. That's where that critical mass is, for us at least. And that part of town needs it, right? You have Walmart in North Ogden, and then you gotta go to Riverdale. So there's a big gap there in terms of.
Well, you forgot the one on Wall Avenue, the Walmart.
Yeah, I'm
You
just
got
saying,
one in Harrisville and you got one downtown. Well,
right. That's what I'm saying, that 12th Street corridor already is established as a good retail corridor so that people don't have to go to Riverdale for stuff. So if we can, and it's far enough away from Riverdale that you can still do some.
oh, you're calling north, you're saying North Ogden, not the city of North Ogden or Harrisville. You're saying North Ogden.
North part of Ogden City.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
So then, what does Newgate become? It could become, light manufacturing because you've got a lot of that over there already. It can become mixed use. These flex buildings are really popular for a reason because you can put so
And we
many.
just don't have that in
cool
our county
things.
at all.
Yeah.
So it would be, we have a serious need for that type of space in the county.
Well, you've got, the only issue is to get west from down in that spot. You've got to go out to 31st Street or you've got to go over Riverdale Road.
Mhm.
The east-west right there is tough because that's right smack dab in the middle.
So there's
If
lots
it's a
of
work
opportunity.
center and you're needing for work, not shopping, that makes it.
I'm just trying to think public transportation
Oh,
too, you know what I
gotcha.
mean?
Yeah,
What's going on with East Temple? I see that the old,
DI,
D&I is now down, what we encouraged them to do 3 years ago.
tried to do that.
Yeah.
It's that right
So-
here.
Have you had more discussions with the church and?
Only the same encouragement that you gave them, and that is, the building's worthless, it's a liability. And people are gonna look at the land having more value and more potential without the building.
Oh, no
And
question.
so, I
So
think
you don't have a plan for that right now?
our plan,
Okay,
they just came to the same conclusion that we've all had for
Yeah.
years.
takes them a while.
Yeah,
They got there.
well, they're a blessing and a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
north of that, east of the temple, they've owned that up to the hillside forever.
Right.
And they demolished that as part of the temple remodel, and there it sits, and we've had a dozen development opportunities there,
I know you have.
and they've turned them all down.
Yeah.
Or we just couldn't get a deal, even with tax increments. So as much as I'm promoting TIF, it's not the end all be all. If we didn't have it, we'd be in much worse shape, because it's still, especially even today, is still not, in some cases, enough. So without it, we would go backwards. So I hope we get something cool. We're
It's gonna
actually,
be better that now it's gone.
yeah, with the DI,
Yeah, the DI, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
We've demoed a number of things in the last few weeks that were kind of
Yes.
not cool.
Good.
The sand trap
That was
being
right
one
of
of them.
that. Can you give us an update on airport, where you guys are at with that?
We have a handful of development, proposals for, the spot along Airport Road. Joby Net just announced they went to Ohio, so no secret there.
Right.
They doubled our total state incentive. Ohio did.
We heard that, yeah.
Yeah, so we were like
Yeah, we got outbid, but
Yeah.
by double.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And they have a higher unemployment rate than we do, so I think their workforce opportunities are a bit different than what we have.
Probably so.
So yeah, we're working on some development opportunities right now. We're working on, the Kemp Center, trying to figure out what we're doing there. There's a proposal to purchase that. So lots of happening. We're looking at, having a
If you
consultant.
purchased that, would you put that inside the wire now? It's outside the wire now, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. What was I gonna, we're in the process of hiring a consultant to review all of our Title VIII and all our leases and our minimum standards and all of that stuff, just to give us a kind of a broad perspective of the market out there.
Potential.
So he'll provide a report to us that says, hey, best practice for this thing is this, you might want to consider changing these things. So we're open to that.
Yeah, I'm sure these guys would wanna get kind of a summary on that once you guys get that back, just.
Yeah.
Be in the loop.
Happy to do that.
So we'd like to see it grow as a regional, asset with this.
Yeah, I'd like to have more conversation about that. Speaking of dialogue in the public realm, a lot of people talk about airport authority and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know what that means to them. I know what it means to me. I don't know what it means to you. I know Tom kicked around that idea 10 years ago. We had conceived it, and he socialized it with Weaver County Commission and Davis County Commission, and Davis County told them to pound sand, essentially. I don't know, obviously we didn't get a lot of traction with Weaver County either. So I think there's some dialogue there, but I just don't know what it means to people when they say airport authority.
Well, I think, our regional airport expert who's sitting to the left of me can explain that to you, but I think, and I don't know where Davis County is. I just think that, if you look at what Utah County's been able to accomplish, I think it's my economic development people say, what the heck's going on with Ogden? We go to Provo, we can do anything. We come up here, we can't even get inside the airport. I think what they're saying, or what I hear, is there a better management structure rather than what we have existing? Is it a regional? I think you've got to bring in Davis at some point.
That was the original idea.
So
You've got to,
Mr. Regional, you want to spout off on that?
and you may even could bring in Morgan
Yeah,
with the Wasatch Peaks going in, because Ogden will be used heavy there. That's about the only way now we're gonna be able to get that done. With the Utah County's just too big. It's strong down there. You been to that little airport out of there? Have you flown out of it?
I don't fly.
Oh,
Really?
John Madden got one of the Madden cruisers, don't you?
I have a car.
Yeah. No, but that's, they've done a wonderful job with what was a piece of crap before, so. But the Southern California little model, it's interesting, but once you hit about, just from a aeronautics perspective, once you barely get past the crest of, you're flying Cedar City, maybe even St. George, you're talking to LAX. Whether you're going to Vegas, whether you're going to Ontario, LAX, Burbank, Long Beach, Orange County, you're talking that every pilot, every aircraft, commercial and private are talking to LAX, and they're moving everything around that. So the model could work with Salt Lake and Provo, Ogden, but you're gonna need some regional political power to make that work. Because it's just, they've done a nice job down there. I don't know how, well, there's all that money down there is what's driven it.
That's
All
what-
that private money down there has done it.
So that's what I think stopped us in our tracks years ago, is that I think people realize, and to me, it's the same situation today. And that is that the surrounding communities of Ogden get all the benefits of the Ogden Airport and none of the costs. And so when we're saying then, why don't we make an alliance where we share the cost? They didn't see the benefit because they're like, why would we do that? What additional benefit would we get for the additional cost?
You're right about being regionalized, and everybody would have to, but it can't be, you'd have to be owned by a regional entity.
But for what benefit?
Well, so you'd share the cost regionally, but you'd share the cost, you'd also share the income if that were ever to take off
So
there.
that's the benefit that Weaver County sees as the potential income upside.
I think it would be that with regards to if you're gonna grow your community like you're talking about, that would be it. I definitely think you'd pull people without question. You'd pull from Cache, you'd pull them from Malad, Southern Idaho, you'd pull them all around here, because nobody wants to go to Salt Lake.
I get the use of it all, but again, that use exists today. There is no obstruction of use. But
No, I'm talking about, there is obstruction of use because you don't have anything commercial coming out of there. They've got several commercial opportunities now with 2 or maybe even 3 different airlines now out of Provo.
Right, Provo. I'm just trying to dial in on the idea of,
So your authorities have statutory power that your cities don't. And that's it's kind of like our partnership with the inland port.
sure.
It would be worth just looking at the pros and cons of it, which is what we did with our Western Weaver corridor. We looked at the pros of having it, and looked at the cons of having it. And the pros outweigh the cons at this part, at this stage of development, what we're trying to do. And that's really, I think, what Jim's trying to say is that it might be worth looking at. Here's what an authority would look like. If
Yeah,
we
and
pencil it out.
I don't know what the structure is, Brandon.
Yeah, here's what it looks like with the city maintaining it and trying to make a decision on, well, what's our vision and goal, and what's the best use, not just short term, the best way to achieve that short term, but the best way to maintain it in the long term. So that's
1,500 years.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's just one of those things. It's like considered looking at the pros and the cons of what an authority would bring to the table versus doing it just coming out of the city. And the authority opens up a whole bunch of different resources as one of the pros. But then,
Like I said a minute ago, we addressed the authority 10 years ago.
yeah,
And
maybe it's time to
and looked
think
at
about it again.
our partners for those reasons.
Yeah, because
And I just haven't been able to solve that question. I think the conversation is certainly merited. We have to explore every option that is out there because the airport's just too important not to. But I just don't see from your perspective, because the airport can't be a profit center for anybody, right? It's not one for us.
no,
can't
but
be
it's
one
more
for
of
the
an
county.
asset, looking at it from a short and long term asset, like how do you best capitalize on that asset, whether it be qualitative or quantitative? And I think that's really where the commission's coming from, is like,
What does
you
that
know,
mean?
well,
We can have this conversation. another day.
Yeah.
and I think we
But
should,
it's,
I think we should.
we know for a fact it's an economic driver. I mean, you
Yeah.
probably talked to the guys at Wasatch Peak. I talked to their CEO just a couple weeks ago and said they're actually looking at another potential site for an airport.
Yeah.
Because they can't have, the 40 or 50 jets come in a month and not have a place to park.
Mhm.
And so economic development, economic incentives is one reason
Oh,
we should look at that, filling that need, because if you guys don't fill it and you continue to say, look, you know, we'd like you to ski there, but you can't park your jet. Well, they're gonna find a place to park their jet.
Well, just for the record, we're not saying that now.
Let me just,
Well, that's what we've heard. That's what I heard from their CEO.
let me just throw another something out there. I may be tipping over the Coke can here a little bit, but
You just
you
smashed.
know, what if we made, we're talking about highest and best use. What if you took all that, there's a huge, when you talked about how much property the Newgate Mall's got. You don't have the barrier between the Ogden Airport and the freeway that you do with the Newgate Mall. What if you did highest and best use of the airport, turn that into BDO number 2? And then, we make another new airport out west.
So we've considered that as part of our analysis back when we looked at the airport authority. Because the airport, and I don't know all the detailed nuance, I'm just gonna give you the 30,000 foot thing. But because the airport has been funded largely by the FAA, right? Then there's a cost component to that that was a barrier.
Is there legislation now that exists that we could transfer, so you wouldn't have that cost component, we could transfer that to the new airport? Cause one of the things out west is we could have a runway that at least doubles. So now we don't have the aircraft type problem we've got out at Ogden. And you'd be able to, that tie in really nicely out there.
So there's a political will, of course, but then the financial will, to me, the financial will is always the easiest one. There's lots of people willing to do stuff with lots of money. So that's what I said. I think there is a conversation to be had. We're open to it. I'm open to it.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand the perspective of what would drive others to it. But I would ask just one request, if I may. You guys hear a lot of things. And just in this conversation alone, it's proven to not be the full truth or the full perspective. I
Right.
just ask that when you hear things that pertain to Ogden City business, that you just give me a call.
Well, Stephanie, for as far as I'm concerned, just for both of you to hear, when I have those concerns, I give those to Stephanie and I expect her to follow up.
And this is not your fault, but that's a communication loop that's very difficult to manage. And a lot of times, by the time you hear something and give it to her and she talks to me and I talk to her and it gets back to you, you've developed a conclusion that may or may not be correct. And so there's no better truth than to hear it from the horse's mouth. So I just say, we're here for you. If you guys
Right.
hear things
No.
that are wonky,
I appreciate
you
that.
can call
I do
me.
too, and a lot of times I just talk to Mike. I mean, Mike and I talk.
Well, we look forward,
Yeah, absolutely.
we look forward to working with your new administration and, you know, I think we're gonna hit the ground running with whoever it is.
And John
And
and I have resumed our monthly meetings with
so,
Ogden.
and we'll start some meetings here, you know.
I understand the challenges that you all have had in the past, and communication, I get it. I just don't want those challenges to prevail or persist, and I don't want you to feel like those challenges exist at this level, because they never have and they don't
Good.
still today.
Well, that's important. I appreciate that. And we, you know, obviously we want to get past any challenges. Well, I've said this for the last 4.5 years. What's good for Ogden City is good for Weaver County and vice versa.
Yeah.
So there's no reason we can't sing out of the same hymn book.
Right.
We just need to make that happen.
There's a half a dozen.
Jim's turn.
I appreciate you using that.
Right now, today, there's a half a dozen opportunities for us to come together and to collaborate on really big things that will in meaningful ways. So I just offer that again.
Good.
Whatever feelings that you've had in the past because of other reasons, those don't exist. And you're gonna hear a lot of things that may or may not be true. We pull no punches. We
So I'll put you on speed dial. How's that?
speed dial it up. Yep. And we'll keep trying to maintain a good level of communication so that you can go to Stephanie and she should know everything about what we're doing. We should know everything about what she's doing.
And that's important because she's our go-to person.
Yep.
So I would say, you know, any updates you can keep her. So if I hear something, she's easy to get to and.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Thank
hey,
you.
thanks, Brandon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for letting us take so
Thank
much
you.
time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. All right, Sean.
Yes.
No, I'm just going to the rest, I'm going to the. Well, there's the rest of the stuff.
I'm not in a race with you.
Barb, where you going?
Right over here to the can only can deal right here.
I thought maybe we made you mad.
Mary, where you been?
I've been waiting for you to tell us to come in
Oh, Judas.
all day. Did you miss me?
Oh.
He's been crying. He's been crying about it.
Good to be missed.
Oh, man.
You guys hungry? Have some pizza.
Have some pizza, Gary.
You're not done yet.
I am.
Good.
Yeah.
Bill, how we doing?
Good.
Cortland?
Commissioner, how are you?
Sure. Sir?
Did we miss any? Good.
Mr. Meyerhofer?
You can have this one.
Get enough pizza?
Right there. That one, it's that one and that one.
Remember that song?
I'm gonna go get a light. I'll be right back.
Okay.
What's going on?
Tell you what slice? I don't either. I don't even.
What's pizza?
I just got invited to it. I saw you did that on Van Halen song.
Scotty.
Yeah, there's a whole nother pizza.
How are you? Good, how are you, Scott? I'm doing all right.
Go ahead, I'm just in between meetings. Okay, great. I got everybody come about 3:30. Make sure the gates are open, and then water guy. Oh. Take a look and see what needs to be done.
Do you have a desktop or do you just have a laptop?
Okay, let me see.
Do you ever use your laptop for anything other than loading into your desktop?
I take it to me.
What kind is that?
Barbecue.
That one, when I'm here.
It's going, it's gonna be thrown away if you don't eat some.
We haven't brought lots of time.
Hey Siri, tell Dave,
See, this is my desktop now. I remote into it. So that's my laptop. So
Okay.
I'm always into my desktop. I'm not my malware. All this does is keep me into that.
You make, you fold that in half, you make that a cannoli.
I just wanted to add pictures.
Well, as soon as we get Commissioner Bolos back.
Remote desktop.
Yeah, the remote desktop connection, so I could do that.
Yeah.
Very rarely do.
And I
doing some table there, Chad.
Lock it that I come.
Chad,
let's continue.
that's
to work on
good.
going
I like
back.
that.
I do.
So.
That's good.
It works.
I'm just kind of a Shadrack guy, but I like Shadrack too.
Not very secure.
So, my grandma.
No,
Shadley?
not at all. Lots of people breaking their.
I don't see these pictures.
No, that's okay.
So,
No,
Yeah,
there's
some picture dentures out too.
I was gonna say, now he's comparing me to his grandma. I'm not sure I should take that.
Yeah.
Well. With the limp wrist. Doing all right.
Good.
Whatever it takes.
You'll notice I use those two words, highest and best use.
I like
And that was a specific, now that'll come back to bless our lives here
It
in
will.
a while, yeah.
I thought maybe the input.
Commissioner, how are you?
The input was
All
good.
right.
The highest and best use is gonna come back when they
I'm just.
start talking about
just happy I
fairgrounds
missed the
and
first
and
previous meeting
VDO.
to this.
And then I'm gonna say, well, you can talk
I was
highest and
supposed to
best
be here and I
use.
didn't come.
Let's close that airport.
I was.
Right.
I sent
What you're
stuff in
acting,
my.
100%. You know, you look at 50 years down the road,
Yeah. It's exactly,
there's no growth there.
no, all that.
You're right in the middle of the
Yeah.
two cities.
Showing a cover for you, and you, anything that you can.
They got a rail line, which it's gonna be served by the 3 gate.
Yeah.
And they got a rail line on the other end of it. Goes right there on the north
Down
end
and
of
had some
that piece.
chips and salt.
Across
for Ricky's
31st
birthday
Street.
today,
Yeah.
so-
You can go right under
I like
Nice
chips and
Corner, in
salt.
case you don't remember Nice,
Too much food.
I know very well.
Too much food.
Fred M.
Fred M.
I brought that.
All right, we
Joe and
ready?
Holly Ballman too.
Right.
She's not doing that good.
Oh, really? Joe's not, or Holly? Holly. I didn't know
She's
that.
got dementia. That,
No.
you didn't know that? Real bad.
Ah, that's too bad.
Different person. All right, gentlemen. Let's talk about our discussion regarding high school improvements. Gary Meyer, Sean Wilkinson, Bill Ross, Scott Park, Cortland Erickson, of course. And we got a couple other engineers with us. All right, Gary,
You let me run with this one for a minute, Commissioners?
go ahead. You're first on the list.
Okay, so in case you didn't know, we have a new high school being built out in
I heard that.
Same one as always. Wanted to kind of discuss our thoughts regarding this. We've talked about this a little bit in the past, but with the new high school comes a lot of new traffic, a lot of new drivers. We have a few areas out there of concern I wanted to just bring up with you and see if you had any ideas on how we should approach this. Especially as we're heading into budget season. One of them is, well, I'm gonna just I kind of made a bulletized list of items to cover, because that's how I work.
Okay,
And I don't want to forget anything. One of them is, we don't have sidewalk or curb and gutter around the church parking lot, or keep in mind, isn't it this field right here that's gonna turn into the seminary? It used to be an old ballpark, and they kind of repurposed it, and they're gonna use it for the seminary.
Where are people, when they take those church ballparks away, where are people gonna go to fight?
we're gonna give them a spot.
Let's wait until basketball season.
Oh, just wait.
We don't
Yeah,
do that
okay.
anymore.
Indoors.
Bring it inside. So when that turns into a seminary, a lot of your traffic will be pedestrian traffic back and forth between the school and the seminary. I guess my bigger question is, we don't have anything currently tucked away in a rabbit hole by deferral agreement or anything to cover the cost of improvements of sidewalk and curb and gutter around the perimeter there.
I was afraid you were gonna say that.
I know.
We have the right of way acquisition, do we have that, or will the church give it to us, or was that gonna be a problem to get the?
You know,
We did have the money, we have the property to do it.
that's a great question. At one point, and Tucker, I might lean to you on this. There was a gentleman that we've been having some conversations with from the church that alluded to the fact they might be willing to do that project. Is that correct, Tucker?
Yeah, so it's obviously in the seminary building, the portion right here, they're gonna do that as part of the building, but it's curb gutter sidewalk and just match the school. The school is, or excuse me, the church is wanting to kind of revamp their landscaping and stuff. And so when the building came through for the seminary building, we kind of told them like, look, we're gonna expect curb and gutter and sidewalks, maybe you can implement that in their new design for landscape.
Well, we have that ability. We don't with the school, but we should with any of the churches, anybody else, they'd be like any other commercial enterprise, would require to bring it to standard sidewalk, curb and gutter. Why would we make an exception?
Do we have that ability? Is that an ordinance we have that we can exercise?
Are you talking about the new construction
Yeah,
of the
that's
seminary
what
building?
they're-
I don't know about the existing. Do we have that ability?
No, for the new one.
Yeah,
For the new one.
They're
Correct.
planning to.
I'm talking about the new one, yeah.
Yeah,
They're planning on that.
Okay,
Yeah, and this would be the.
so they're not saying they didn't want to for that.
No, but then the other areas where it's already established, which is
Okay,
75 to 80% of the property they have out there, that's what we don't have
okay.
leverage on, and so,
What's that other piece of property over there on the 2139? Big old barn, that there.
that
That's
is
a house and then like, they use it for like ball practice and stuff, right? Pickleball, right?
pickleball,
Yeah.
pickleball court.
But just a big like pole barn type structure.
Okay.
And they, as well, there's no sidewalk there either, but
Right.
we'll probably address that as time goes on. I don't know.
That would be a subdivision I have to look into, so that would be a long time.
Yeah. So we've worked with the developer to the east of here. We have all the sidewalk in except for these two lot frontages here. 2 or 3, Chad.
Just those two.
Just these two right here, which we have deferral agreements on for those, is that correct?
We had the escrow set up at the time.
That's what it was. Aged escrow, which is going to be a little bit underfunded, but we have a contractor under contract to do some sidewalk projects for us this fall that we were gonna have him do
Yeah, he's
that
not quite
one
under
as
contract.
well. We're close. So we're trying real hard, commissioners, to get the sidewalk, curb and gutter improvements, all that streetscape type improvements in place there, but anyway, we weren't sure on the church piece there. The next improvement is the median, right, well, this section of the road, so what we have dedicated from the school is by the time they're done, well, let me back up a minute. There's actually a storm drain ditch on the south side of the road. If you, Commissioner Bowles, you may not remember, but the other two commissioners, we had a conversation with the school district. And the original agreement was that if we bought the pipe, they would install the pipe and do it. We did buy the pipe. The pipe's actually sitting in our yard, but it has not been installed yet. So that being said, we were going to suggest maybe setting up another meeting with the new superintendent of the school district, Mr. Hadley, to see if we could kind of have another remembrance of that conversation with them to see if they're still on board to do that.
He wasn't there when we did that meeting.
Correct, it was Mr. Zelmer who was the administrator at that point. So we would just want to make sure that number one, that's still in place. If by chance something happens and they pull out of that agreement, we wanted to discuss is that my advice would be that's something we would want to do because we have a big deep ditch out there, and when they're done with their improvements, we're gonna need that ditch piped.
Why would we not hold them to that agreement?
Well, that's the intention.
Why, so why would could they just get out of that agreement?
I don't think they would, but there's a new person in charge.
Was there a written agreement?
No.
So,
There was nothing
There's not a
written,
written
it was all verbal.
So that was verbal?
Yes.
Well, it's in their best interest.
yeah,
to
dude, I
do-
don't know why they would back
why-
out of that.
You know,
I would hope so. Generally, I like to hope people will do the right thing. However, that being said, sometimes I try to prepare myself for scenarios where maybe they don't
well, of
always.
course,
I don't know why they wouldn't.
They've
They
got the.
provided the
agreement.
pipe and it's in the best interest of their students.
It is.
Correct. So the pipe is actually out in our yard, sitting there, ready to go. The minute that.
So have we informed them that the pipe's there?
We did, and.
What'd they
through the-
say?
They were working out some final grades with their curb and gutter.
Okay,
And it we were waiting to hear back from them, and we since have not heard back from them since then, and to be honest, it's kind of. Well, we moved into winter and spring and we got distracted, and this is our version of following back up with them, bringing it back up.
so I would start with Hadley and then go to the superintendent if we need to.
Okay, so with that being said, well, 2,200 as a whole is a little bit narrow. And so when that's done, just so you're aware, once that's piped and we've paved the road over the top of it, that's only going to give us about, what did we write down? A 2.5 foot asphalt shoulder, your 2 foot of gutter pan out there on the north side of the road. And then that's pretty much it. It's gonna be very narrow. So we've talked with the school. Our intention is to have them paint the curb red. We're not gonna allow any on-street parking. I only say this because as anyone who's ever been to a high school function of games.
The quickest getaway.
It's the quickest getaway, and that's the first ones to go, and everyone wants that. That could be a bit of a struggle for us in the future. The individual on the south side of the road has intentions and plans to develop his property down here, so I don't know, hopefully this is more of an FYI, what everything has kind of settled to and decided to be there. It's obviously not what we would love in an ideal world, but in this situation, the individual on the south side has some certain rights as well too, and so when he comes in to develop that, we can have conversations with him about widening the road to the south a little bit as well too. So,
Gary, on our master plan, 2,200 is 80 feet.
I think it's 60, Sean. There's 66. I think.
Okay.
Oh, this won't have the updated, will it? And the reason I hesitated on that, Sean, 2,200 dead ends at
Okay.
3,500.
You're right.
It doesn't connect through, so that's why I don't believe we went with an 80-foot designation.
1,800's
Yeah, 1,800 is. the-
1,800 does,
Yeah.
and then 4,300 as well too, so. Okay. That's actually next on my list is 4,300. As we're looking at this, you can see it sits right in the heart of a lot of different existing roads we have. However, these roads have not necessarily been widened, improved all that much is what you would probably hope or want to see for a whole bunch of increased traffic. The other thing too is we're trying to do our best at guessing where the traffic is going to come from. As the high school's put in and boundaries are renegotiated and realigned, we know they've told us the railroad tracks will kind of be a northern boundary. But where the kids are gonna come from, you know, how do you pattern a high school kid's driving habits? I don't know that anyone is very good at that, especially me. So we're just looking at potential avenues of travel they're gonna take. One of them would be 4,300. Now, as you're aware, we have funds and plans in place to widen 2550. Our current phase one goes from 3,500 to 4,300. And then the next phase will go from 43 to 47. But that leaves the middle connector here at 4,300 that's not really widened to what we would prefer for a whole bunch of high school kids and increased traffic on that road. So that is now a Prop 1 road covered by Prop 1. So our thought was if we get to a point where we feel like we need to widen some of that, are you guys okay with using Prop 1 funding for that in the future?
What's our right of way there?
So our master plan called that one out for, I think that one was 80 on that one.
But we don't have anywhere close to that now.
No, and it's gonna,
That'll be ugly.
it will be tough, cause we'll have to acquire property, we'll have to. Yeah, that could be an expensive challenge.
Can that be a WACOG ask? If it's a Prop 1, is it on the master plan?
It is on the master plan, so yeah, we could probably try to go that direction.
Cause your general Prop 1, I mean, we have $7 million, but if you were to buy and build, you'd probably exhaust that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's for all Prop 1, I mean, that's
I
everything.
think you've got to go to the COG.
Yeah.
Get that on the list.
Okay.
Put the check through that might be on impact fee list as well.
Yeah, if we've got impact fee money, we might as
Yeah,
well
but
use that one.
I mean, sure, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in impact fees, we're not talking anywhere near what we would need.
Correct, yeah, correct.
So 43 is gonna be the main access into that.
Well, we're not sure, Commissioner, because if you look at that, if I'm being honest with you, my gut tells me 2,200 is gonna be the biggest access into it.
Okay.
Not
Either from east
necessarily
or
from the
west.
east, though, because it dead ends.
Great question, Commissioner, because if you look over here at this intersection of 3,500 where they turn to, well, that actually brings us to one of our next items, and let's come back to that one here in just a second, but there's a few intersections we'd like to do some improvements on. Right now, we're in the process of getting a pool of design contractors to help us. I'll be honest with you, with everything we've got going on engineering's plates, to do all these designs on all these intersections we're kind of operating at our bandwidth right now, so we're asking to get a pool of contractors to help us with some of that. This intersection would be one of the ones we would redesign. Currently, there's one lane in each direction, and that's literally it. So what we'd like to do is add a left turn lane and then widen that road to the south to make.
That's
a right
where it
turn.
dead ends, right?
That, correct, dead ends right into 3,500 there,
Okay.
So we would, I think we're okay right away with there to do those improvements. We'd have to do a little research into that, but I think we're good. But that's one of them we see needing to be improved. Another one would be the intersection right here in front of the school. The next one would be the intersection off the state highway out here, off 4,700 west. And then north of that, the next road on 18, we kind of see traffic splitting. To answer your question, Commissioner Frower, we see traffic splitting maybe down 1,800 a little bit, maybe down 2,200, as well as coming in from 1,800 on the east end as well too, and then coming down 43.
Are there two parking lots?
On the school,
Mhm.
there is, and there's gonna be access from the south side here as well as access from the east side. And if, is the parking lot here or to the
It's up
north?
there, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the north.
You
side.
know, it's too bad we don't have access from 1,800 or a potential access from 1,800 because that's gonna be the main road, right? That's gonna be one of the roads.
I know. And that's one of those intersections, Commissioner Harvey, right there that we feel is gonna need some widening and improvement as well too. As it is, it's pretty bare bones right now, and it's worked great for all these years, but you throw in there the AM, PM peaks of school arriving and leaving. I see that as having some issues in the
Yeah,
future.
no question.
So, and then of course, the next intersection that's gonna kick the can down the road to is this one down here on 3500. Right now, the road from development has been widened significantly, leading right up to the intersection. Let me get a better aerial image if I could, please. But as it comes down here to the intersection, you have this last little remnant piece of open ditch that needs to be, yeah, just one little remnant piece. And, we'd like to kind of get all these buttoned up and tied up, you know, if we could. And so that leads me to my next question is funding for these intersections, right? Some of them will be on our impact fee list, but others may or may
Well,
not
this is a
be.
perfect thing for us to take in front of that COG and get the monies because it's regional. As far as I'm
It is
concerned.
regional, it's gonna affect so many,
Oh, yeah.
We've
just with the
gotta-
high school's gonna affect so many.
If those intersections are on roads that are on their regional transportation plan, then yes. If they're not, though, if we're one street too far away, but we still need to do the intersection, the COG won't pay for that.
So
Do
do
you
we
think
know
they're
if they're on
not?
the transportation?
So for 3500 west, that is, 4300 should be on there, 1800. Those are,
Not sure about 2200.
22 is not going to be, no. So we'll have to, I guess we could talk to Portland and Brook and just see if there's a portion of that intersection that goes onto one of those WACOG roads, could we get funding? Well, we'll just have to figure that part out.
Your impact fee balance isn't enough to do anything. We're at $800,000. It's not enough to do anything in the lower valley. I mean,
Don't you have a place where you could sweep them corners and find little?
I can't. I just found you $800,000 in the impact fee. It'll get you the paint for the curb.
Yeah, we could paint the intersection.
Yeah. I mean, we have $7 million in Prop 1 funding, but that's small for all of us.
Now, and maybe the best thing for me to do, commissioners, my next bullet point was to set up kind of a meeting with the school to bring them in and kind of show them these improvements and these areas that need some attention. Maybe, again, hoping someone will do the right thing. Maybe they'll look at this and say, hey, maybe we need to help participate because through the development process, we didn't really have a lot of leverage to exact things out of the school district. They kind of got around that, I guess, as probably the nicest. I'll just leave it at that. They don't have to play by those rules. So maybe we can kind of put some numbers together and I'll identify these intersections, these roadway projects. We'll put some numbers to paper on this and see what we can come up with on costs and see if it's something they might be willing to help participate with.
I don't know if they don't have any money.
No, I know they don't, but neither do we is the problem.
But you know what they might be able to help with?
What's up?
Is, and maybe this is part of their planning process, is the transportation routes. I mean, I don't know really how that works with high schools.
I know.
They do it with elementaries, there's so many walkers and stuff, but I don't know. And honestly, the main thoroughfare, whatever is improved is probably what most students will take.
Yeah.
And then the ones who want to get there quicker will take the back roads.
So that means your 47th and your 3500
Yeah.
are gonna be your easiest options for north-south. East-west, 1800 is gonna be a great candidate, and 2550, you're exactly right. So those are your four targets. The challenge is, like you mentioned, Commissioner, with younger schools, you have a little more control over how the access gets there. With this one, the majority of them driving, not a lot of kids in high school.
They'll drive the
ride a bus.
improved roads for sure.
Yeah,
Is this a safety issue?
will be. It
Yeah.
is, very much so.
You got money?
Maybe.
Woo-hoo.
How much you need?
$50 million.
Would be?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a big ass stuff.
Is it shovel ready?
Is it?
It could be.
It's not.
Scott is shaking his head.
It's not designed, right? We haven't.
Nothing's
be.
designed yet.
Could be.
That's
But
what
it
I'm
could be.
asking.
We have to stay till 6 o'clock tonight to get.
5:30. Well, and the reason I say that, we're in the process of identifying a pool of consultants that we could utilize to help us with this. So if we get 5 different consultants in this pool, we could deal it out like cards, right? And have them help us pound through this pretty quickly.
But even if you had them all on contract today and you signed it out today, by the time they get out there, do their work, design it and get the designs back, and then we go out and bid that out and figure out actually how much it's gonna cost to be shovel ready.
We're looking at it 8 months.
Where along was, when is the
We
high
are.
school open?
Next fall.
So we're gonna
It is
have.
next fall.
Mhm. 2024. So you're looking for approval to hire some consultants, is that what you're looking for?
Or other direction, if you have other ideas.
Can we move this up? Cause I think we got any political savvy with WFRC with some funding program.
Well, we had to talk to WFRC, that's
I'm
definitely,
thinking at the very minimum, get the money to fund the study and get the study going right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If we want
Design,
to,
whatever.
if we wanted to apply for this, we have to do it by the 22nd with our letters of intent.
Yeah,
then-
September 22nd or
22nd, yeah,
or October 22nd.
September,
September.
and that's letters of intent, and then the application will be due
This
on
week.
December 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Friday.
3 days.
Well,
Friday.
and letters,
There's nothing wrong with putting a letter of intent.
No.
letters of intent are
Let's
easy
put
to
the
do.
letter of
We
intent.
can put those in.
I'd say let's do that
Which
for
we
sure.
are.
Sure.
Yeah, if we
Well,
can get that
because they've
funded.
already gotta be on this, their plan, right? So it's gotta be 3,500, it's gotta be 4,300, it's
Mhm.
gotta be 2,550, right?
Those are
the
gonna
only
be
three.
though, I think,
Mhm.
are they?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
2,550 is already on that, right? We've already funded 2,550 to a certain point.
Correct.
Yeah, Sean, we can look at and see which one or ones it would qualify for. Just to get the study going.
I think the study needs to come first.
Okay,
I will say this, they're not doing awards until next spring. That's the only problem with this funding, is that you won't get it awarded until, I think it's March or April.
But that's as fast as we could go anyway, right?
Yeah.
By the time you get it designed and bid, I mean, we
Right.
can't go any faster.
No, that would be for
Well,
the study.
And that funding may be several years out as well.
Yeah.
It'll function like our WACOG, where even though it's for 2024, the construction is actually 2027.
That's still worth a crack, even if it's this company, we go, okay, we know the problem's there, then at least we got money
Now we have
coming.
money to
And
address.
one of the
I don't
other
wanna wait
reasons-
another year.
Right.
Sure.
And one of the other reasons it's good to have, to apply for this funding is it gets these projects on WFRC's radar, which we've had an issue with in the past couple of years of really getting their attention on this project. Not everything, but I'm speaking specifically about the western corner.
well, and so we've
It just-
actually
it just
been
gets on
talking to
everybody.
WFRC quite heavily for the last, well, at least the last 3 years since I've been county engineer, and we put in for funding where previously we didn't. But Stephanie's correct, it does take a certain amount of time and asking to where they feel that the need is there, so. But this being a school might have a little bit more sway power with them, I don't know, we'll see
It should,
what they can come up with,
builds our case, yeah.
so.
All right, let's do that. Steph, you'll do that. Okay, great.
Okay,
I'll give Karen a note. And Sean.
yeah, that was pretty much it for the high school. I didn't know what we would need for ordinance discussion or funding discussion. That's why I asked both Cortland and Scott to come in.
Well, I still think it's worthwhile sitting down with the school district to explain situation. And yeah, I wouldn't be optimistic we're gonna get any money.
If we get their support, though, it might help us with the other
It could, yeah,
funding
it's
options
not
we're
gonna hurt.
facing.
But what we're seeing, commissioners, and as I zoom out to kind of show you the overall picture, with the revisions to the general plan, seeing a lot of subdivisions show up that kind of weren't really on the radar previously historically, and so they're kind of starting to come in. And so, yeah, it just has us concerned with the amount of traffic that it could generate and issues it'll.
I think you really will have some time though. I know we're in a crunch to try to get funding or, apply for whatever we can, but the reality is when the school opens, all those open fields are still gonna be open. Now, as that fills in, if we can just, anticipate the need for the roads. I don't think we're as far behind as
No, I don't
maybe we
think we are
think we
either.
are.
I think you got a wonderful point there too. And if all those subdivisions start to increase, there'll be a percentage. I mean, those are all gonna be potential students eventually.
That's right.
They're gonna use that. So couldn't the impact fee be kind of heavier on those?
Well, no, we can't increase them
But
per
it can
se,
be
but,
used for
but,
that.
but some of these projects will be on our impact fee list, and as that money is generated and we start to have a little bit more created there, we're more than happy and excited and willing to use that impact fee money, but there's very strict rules associated with it that Mr. Erickson holds me to accountable on this, so, and that's good that he does. It keeps us out of trouble.
But we could use that money to design,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
we get all this design and then we go to WACOG, and if WACOG funds it, we don't have to, we're not starting the design process at that
Right.
point. We're just funding it because we already have a design.
That's right.
So we have impact fees and we have a little bit of Prop 1 and we have a little bit of fund balance in municipal services in the case of 2200. You know, if we needed to design it.
Do you not want me to go
in
after
trouble.
that money to
Oh, no.
do the study?
No, let's still,
Sure, I mean, go after it, but I mean, I'd rather ask for funding, like funding for corridor preservation and for construction dollars, right?
There's no reason we can't do both.
Yeah,
Well, we are doing both with like the Brigade Trail, we're doing the same, this is what we're doing, we're going after the study money. It gets that project on their radar, it's like, well, we funded that study, now we're gonna take it more seriously and fund the actual project.
All right, what else, Gary?
that was pretty much it for the high school improvements. Yeah, that's pretty much
Sure.
it. Would you like more?
No,
Well, I think the other discussion that this leads to is the discussion we had last week with our friends from Utah State
Yes,
on our road conditions.
that's right.
That we need to start getting creative in terms of all, you know, whether it's a school, whether it's developer, they're, we've got a $20 million bill coming down the road for roads, in case you didn't know that.
no, and that's exactly what I wanna piggyback on too. This is, okay, so we're finding out all this new stuff. Keep in mind though, there's another elementary and a junior high right around the corner. So it's gonna be coming out of the ground, so not just this one, we ought to be planning on step 2 and 3 right away, cause this is gonna come up again and again.
Well, that's the reason I wanna have the discussion with the school district now is that I don't wanna have those two school bills. You know, so they're tearing up our roads. If Bronco was here, he'd tell you that himself.
Yes, he would.
And passing the burden on to us. And it's just not the school district, it's the developers that tear up the roads. We need to make sure we have something in place that we can have an impact fee or a usage fee, some type of fee that we're not passing that cost on
That's right.
for one section of road to the entire population of
I
Weaver County.
agree with that. That would seem right.
Seems fair.
Because we're gonna end up paying the bill.
Yeah,
And so I'm a big user fee guy. If you use it, you should pay for it. And if they're using our roads, they're the ones impacting our roads, they should pay a good share of that. So we just had to figure out how to do that.
correct.
And I know there's other counties doing it,
And cities.
and cities, yeah.
There was, as we learned last week, there are some cities that have actually won that battle
Right.
and assessed those user fees on top of the impact fees.
When you get that report, who had that report, Sean, was that?
We've got it coming. We've got it coming.
When that report comes, you guys will get a copy of it.
Yeah.
You'll see kind of where we are in terms of our future road cost, which is substantial.
It is, it's significant. It's kind of
Well,
scary.
I think if we don't, that's one issue we need to start looking at now.
I agree.
Not.
I support you.
You support me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thank you.
will you send that to me, Gary, when you get it?
When we get it,
Absolutely.
The state auditor pushed back on several cities saying you can't do that, but theirs were overly broad.
Okay.
So they put in, well, here's a usage fee for this road, but they weren't tying it to the people using it, so it was basically a tax.
So I'll sit
so
down
the-
with Dukes and we'll have a
Well,
discussion. I want him to get it.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we can, that
The
if we were to
report-
do it, it'd be in such a way that we could get around his concerns.
Yeah, no, the report doesn't necessarily identify ways to structure your fees. What it does is it identifies the condition of our roads and the future need of repair and maintenance on
Okay.
those.
We need to look, Steph, this is probably in your portfolio, is let's look at some usage fees that I know the cities are doing for roads. We can't be the only ones doing it. And it might require a statute change, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But we need to get there, but I just don't think it's fair that, another 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
You people sitting in this room, won't be me, will have some major decisions to make in terms of
Well, and if-
how do we pay for that?
And if the school districts are coming in and building.
Yeah.
And they do that at their own pleasure, and they use tax dollars to do that. They use tax increment finance as well as, their own tax levy
Right?
and a portion of our tax levy. So, that might be something that gets put into the state statute that they have to examine the road system. when they're building in a new area and they have to, and they pay an impact fee to build in that.
That's how I see it.
That's how I.
That's
see it.
really how
The
it
school
should be.
district should be
The
paying
school
an impact
district
fee
is
to
paying
deal with
impact
what we're talking
fee.
about.
Yeah, that's exactly.
If they're gonna, just like we would charge a developer, so a developer comes and builds in your area, we're gonna impact fee them. Same with school district, and they would have to have an analysis done to see what that looks like.
That's probably a statute change.
I would say so.
Put it on our list.
Because the school would get it.
Right. That's possible.
Okay, good conversation, but these, you know, these roads are major money, Harv.
Just in case you didn't know, if you haven't bought any gas lately, oil's gone up, or at least the cost.
Unfortunately, I have.
And you said
Yeah.
to me
All we
also-
need is about
I haven't.
64 million and we can make our roads perfect.
Yeah.
That's it. Bargain basement price.
I
Just
need
incorporated.
74 million to fix the sewer in the western Florida.
I'll let you get that.
So what's that, we're at 150 million?
I can get you $74.
Thanks, Carter.
Yeah.
All right, what else, Gary?
That's it for
That's
this
it?
topic. Thanks, commissioners.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your attention. So,
So I think we should start having the conversation with the school district.
Okay.
You know, the school bus is already down the road on the high school, but it's not necessarily on Route 2 at a school.
yeah,
So let's have that conversation.
we'll get something set up with them, and, what we'll do in the meantime is try and get kind of an overall map with the intersections identified, the roads identified, and some real rough costs,
Yeah.
right? Just based off what we're seeing.
Good.
So, does that work for you?
That's it.
Okay.
So is that your 2550
No,
south
that's
construction?
different, that's.
All right, let's go to that
different. We got everyone in here, might as well jump right to it.
Yep.
Just so you're aware, commissioners, the previous phase of, 2550, we were in the process of acquiring right of way on a willing seller, willing buyer
Okay.
situation. We've kind of moved forward beyond that, and just to identify to you, everyone here, well, I think really except you guys has seen this letter that we're going to, we'd like to send out to them.
And who does this go to?
This will go to all the residents in that phase one between 3,500 and 4,300, right, Ashley?
This is Ashley's project. Okay.
And so, essentially what this letter does, commissioners, is it lets them know that we now have construction money for that phase one.
Okay.
We are going to move forward into the next process, which puts a little bit more emphasis on the acquisition end of things. If they're hopefully at this point, with the amount of development they've seen in the last 2 years that we've been trying to renegotiate on some of these, they've seen the need. They may not. If they don't, they'll be presented, we're following the state's right-of-way acquisition process. They'll be presented with a 4 options letter, which
Okay.
gives them, it does give them a little bit more power to try to go to the ombudsman and negotiate the price if the price is an issue for them, but it does give us a little bit more power. It does open the door into the eminent domain process.
Okay.
And, keep in mind, and I think we've explained this to you, eminent domain gets a bad rap. It does give a lot of power to the owner of the property.
Yeah.
And the fact that it doesn't just take that property from them. It's not this horrible overreaching hand of government. What it does is it forces them to come to the table and negotiate with us.
Yeah. I get it.
And so we're not just forcing a square peg in a round hole here. We're trying to make it work for everybody. Was there anything else to that, Ashley?
No, this is really just, the residents out there are aware of this project. We've talked to many of them. Many of them, when we first contacted them about selling their small parcel in the front, weren't interested because it was further down the road. Now that we've got construction money, we're gonna move into this next phase, and just this letter will give everybody an update as to where we're at, whether, we're talking to them about purchasing land or not. And so, we just wanna make sure you guys and gal were aware that this is coming, and that's where we're at in this process. Along with, we've started this process of phase 2, where we just asked WACOG for money for corridor preservation. So we have our agent that's already out there working with property owners. We want to continue west from 4,300 to 4,700, purchasing the expanded right away. So instead of 33 feet half width, we're going to 40 feet half width. So she'd be purchasing typically 7 feet of land along the front. And then we are going to apply to WFRC for construction money as well. And so letter of intents are due. We wanted to make sure that was okay, that we submit this letter of intent to continue proposing this construction going west to 4700.
Historically and understandably, people are very emotional about purchase of their property, and I certainly get it. I don't wanna take that away from them, and I don't wanna diminish what we're doing, but we didn't want you guys to be contacted and not know what's moving forward on this and where we're at in the process, so. And,
What's the next step? We have to do it, so.
yep, it is, and it's not always easy, unfortunately. Some people are not always happy with it,
Yeah.
so.
No,
Anyway, we're sensitive to that and trying to do it in the easiest way possible for them,
good.
so.
Do you have any questions about this project, phase 1 or phase 2?
Questions? Nope, I've seen it. Done a good job out there, Ashley. You
If
got
some,
some tough customers to deal with. out there.
we do, and if
You know, you
someone's,
could send the weed board out on a couple of them.
well, if someone's upset, commissioners, it's not, I'm not hiding this from you. They're gonna, if they don't like the answers we're giving them, they may try and go around us and go right to the top and give you guys a call.
Oh, they will.
So
That's okay.
just be prepared. So.
I'm gonna, just to let them know, as soon as they call me, I'm gonna talk to them about puncture buying.
And then say in 2 words. And then that's gonna be good.
Do we have enough in the corridor preservation to purchase all that? I mean, we have 1.2 million allocated, right? Is that enough?
Well, my gut tells me it's probably not quite enough, but it'll get us close.
So how many do we have left to go to 43?
About 20.
20. Okay. so-
And as we've applied for more construction money, we've gotten updated costs of how much those will, and it's kind of rolled into. So
Okay.
where in the past it was split out, the last applications to WFR or to WACOG included additional for right of way.
Okay,
But this phase 2, we're breaking it down because the whole, price tag for corridor and construction was pretty big.
Yeah.
So we just broke it into a corridor, and it may come out of the sales tax fund instead of the corridor fund, but that's the intent of this new application is for corridor.
okay.
Keep in mind, Scott, to answer your question is, property values have been so volatile the last few years. It's tough to pin that down when, especially funding works a little ways down the future too, before it's made available to us.
Yeah, because it looks like we've spent half of that 1.2 million so far,
Mhm.
just over half, and so I just wondered if that was enough left. I mean, you can use your sales tax dollars, but then you don't have, that's eating into your construction dollars.
That's right. That's right.
So we're about halfway through our corridor.
Yeah, we've spent half the corridor
And
preservation.
we don't have, we
properties
don't
left.
have quite half of the,
We bought 17 parcels.
Okay.
So
Which-
not
You have to ready to
directly
go.
indicative of length
Sure,
and areas,
sure.
but yeah, we're about half.
Okay,
we're close to half.
Parcel numbers.
I think it gets expensive at this point.
We're seeing that and we're getting nervous, which is why we kind of prioritized a segment 1 and a segment 2.
Yep.
Right? We'd like to build with what we have for what we can. But obviously we gotta get the right away finalized too, so.
All right, keep it up.
Okay.
Anything else?
That was kind of,
Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Bowles, questions, comments? I appreciate what you do.
we knew that'd be a little shorter one. That puts us back on schedule. You're welcome for that.
So Gary, you kind of over budget your time, so we need to keep that in mind when we start setting up these schedules.
He had a full hour.
Well, that gets
For
us to the
Gary's
next one.
study money, is there any match?
Let me see if the rest of them are out there for 2:30.
Gary, how much do you need for?
Yeah, don't go away. You guys are all involved with this.
Not this time.
Let me get back to you.
Not this time.
yeah, depending on his number.
What do you want?
Well, I mean, we have $800,000 of impact fees, we don't want to use all that.
No, not at all.
But if it, I don't know how much, if it's.
I've been putting you on these requests, I've been putting down 1%.
Okay, I mean, I don't know what, 10% of what
Would
though,
that be
right?
okay though?
Depending on what his number is, like 10% of $10 million is way too much, but 10% of 100,000 is fine.
It's just a study.
Yeah, I just don't know how much
I
that's
just
gonna
wanted to get an idea.
be. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'll need that.
Okay.
And I'll need a paragraph description of what you're actually doing.
I just need to put it in words. No, sure.
You have to shoot over to me, I'll submit it today,
You don't need.
or early tomorrow, however it works for
Okay,
you.
we're still good around the floor.
Yes.
That works. Let me see who's out there.
You
Sean,
wanna, what's that,
I'm putting you as point of contact.
on the letter of
You want me
intent?
to put Gary?
That's,
That's up to you.
I would put Gary on that, honestly,
All right, that's fine.
he will, yeah,
I'm doing TLC.
oh, yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
Why not?
Do you wanna meet in your office or mine?
Let's do mine, because I just have everything already there.
We'll come up.
Yeah, just when you're done.
Okay.
with the office meeting.
Yes, let's do TLC.
We got up those impact.
Safe routes to schools,
Is that done yet?
safe routes to schools.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
All right, let's at least get that one done.
What else is out
Here,
there?
I'll put it on my- I have it put up.
Can't use CMAC. We got TLC, CMAC.
Baby, you haven't even been like to say hi to us this morning.
I think so. That's not gonna work.
Oh.
So we have, service transportation. That's
Well,
federal, it says federal aid eligible highways. Highways, transit, capital improvements and active transportation.
okay,
I wanna say though, that there's one of them, there's zones that we don't fit into it. Congestion mitigation, air quality, TAP, that's bicycles and pedestrians, carbon reduction, not really.
that may be for some of our sidewalk projects.
Okay. For this project? Gary's
If you
project,
guys need sidewalk on 4300.
you need sidewalk?
Yeah, we'll take some of that money.
Then I'll do sidewalk, so. Oh. And then TLC, that's about it. Unless you think carbon reduction, but I really don't. see
I don't
that.
think so.
Safe routes for that one. Safe routes. to school.
Wasatch?
No, that one's not through Wasatch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's, I was
It's
just gonna say
UDOT.
that.
Yeah, safe routes to schools through UDOT.
Is that open right now?
Coaster.
I don't know
when it'll be soon, I can't remember when it is.
So what we might wanna do is use safe routes for the actual construction, for the dollars. Cause that's really,
Cultured swine, I don't use this.
I don't think that study's gonna be more than,
I know.
I don't know, 100,000, 150,000. I just want
Sorry, which study?
the one you want done.
For the high school?
My guess would be about 100,000.
So you're thinking more design, not study then, right?
Well,
Yeah, I don't know that we need a study.
yeah, we just, we need a design.
Yeah. Get that design in place, know what we need to do. for
Yeah.
construction.
Cause if you already not have an idea, like how it needs to look, then.
Yeah, I think we're good
You
there.
need to do any kind of feasibility at all.
I don't
Not
think
really.
we do at this point.
Okay,
I
then,
think we're pretty
put it
comfortable with what
together,
it needs to
we're
be.
then we'll do it as a design.
Yeah.
So make the verbiage like that.
Almost been over
Okay. So just from a Stephen and Charlie, just from a planning perspective, when a school district comes in and buys property and then develops, do they go through a different process than other developers? So is there a reason why, other than maybe legally, we can't charge them impact fees?
Reason why what? Legally that we can't
That's a
charge them?
complicated question.
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
We asked that question to Cortland and he said in some cases, maybe we could, and in most cases, we can't.
Especially when you're dealing in an undeveloped area. Where we would normally do that with developers.
They're not creating a bigger impact. School kids already exist.
Hold up.
Now they
Yeah,
are creating a
but they're
bigger
cut-
impact on the local streets.
They are, I was saying, from a transportation perspective, that's what I'm saying.
So that'd be, instead of a impact fee for system improvements, that'd be a cost for project improvements. Which the state code does say we
I was
can't
just gonna say,
make them put
is
in.
it state code?
Yeah, we can't make them put it in flat work. We can make them like reserve right away or reserve streets. We can't make them build them.
So it would have to change on the state level.
Yeah.
Considering how much tax dollars the school district gets.
Yeah, maybe if they build less stadiums and more sidewalks. Everybody will
Well,
be
I mean,
safer.
we're talking about the
Did you
county
just say
having to come in.
Right?
This is the Longhorns, Charlie.
The Longhorn.
Socialized, sporting training.
They're aware. And
You know, that might be the
she
answer.
said it was them that sent
If
me
you
their
build any kind
request.
of outdoor playing surface, if you have any kind of an outdoor or indoor playing surface, sidewalks are required as part of that.
And road, because you're gonna increase road traffic
Yeah, the
significantly.
road, that's it. That's the
But
one.
Charlie thinks we have to go to the state to change that.
What's happening?
What were you mad about? Yeah, I didn't understand.
I'm out of town.
Okay.
That's why I was like, make Gary the contact, anything to do with this, I'm not gonna be here this
Okay,
week, so.
all right, I was
Like
like,
that.
I was like,
Good, how are
is he
you?
saying like, don't do it,
No.
or good job, I don't know, I
am
can't
out
read
of
lips. I'm like, use your technology.
I could have texted you. Yes, I could have.
All right, Gary, we'll knock it out. Does anyone else need anything before the 22nd? And Pat, you're not included in that ask.
I was just about to ask.
Like, and Pat is not included in that ask.
What's on the 22nd?
The letters of intent are due for WFRC, so.
How many do we have?
I think I've submitted 2 or 3 so far, and I'm gonna do one for Gary today, and then Ashley's got one going in, right?
And then the one for Combi?
I did that one for
Yeah,
you.
that was already.
Yeah. I
Are we
did
gonna
that one,
compete with ourselves?
pretty much.
That's okay.
That's okay, that's not a problem.
Maybe both will.
We don't have
As long
huge,
as
we don't
somebody
have
is,
huge
yeah.
asks either. Most of these are, design or, well, yours isn't, but mine was a design.
They may come back and tell us.
I
to
did one for
prioritize.
3-gate trail, yeah.
Charlie, does Tiffany, do they
Mhm.
prepare their own, or do we help them?
With this kind of stuff, it's jurisdiction. So Tiffany wouldn't qualify. There are some things that they qualify for, but for these, it has to be the municipality or county.
Do they have any that they're gonna ask us to submit on Friday?
No,
Not that they've told us.
Oh, and I did check on your stormwater one, Gary.
Hmm.
We'll probably know in a couple months, but I kind of put in another plug with our rep. I was like, hey, we're really excited to find out if we got that, got our request, so.
So remind me what it is.
Awesome.
I don't think a lot of people, applied, but I don't know.
Well, we'll find out.
You guys
Yeah, we
listen to
will.
redoing this.
We're gonna get it.
He's calling you a loader.
I hope so.
He used to be a loader.
I like free money.
Me too.
So. Cause your forward and said, you just have to be on, oh, we said. Thank you for voicing your opinion.
Oh, okay. My understanding was I was finding out.
Oh, that's a good point, Chad.
Oh, yeah, okay, back to that.
Ooh, not that
Yeah,
far.
just-
Easy now.
Let him know that this comes from, it's on the plan, it's something we're talking about.
I always have to look Gary's name because I keep forgetting it's the MY.
We'll get you trained.
At least I don't have my old married name.
That roundabout kind of being the eastern edge.
How do you spell
being
Gary's
the
last
lead
name?
into.
MY?
Oh.
That made sense.
But I said my-
way, right, Chad?
My old married name was, weird. It was AYLWORTH. Nobody got it right. No one could pronounce it.
Hold on, AYL what?
WORTH. That's why I switched back to my
Alhort?
L word.
How far
Yeah.
potential.
Oh. I was thinking about changing my name too. Taylor. That's weird.
You're hilarious.
Demand.
Been doing
What's the project
I told
location like
Gary the
out
other
here?
day.
For this one on the school,
Maybe we just.
I would say around 4,300 west and 2,300 south.
Building a signal
Near,
there.
43.
100 west
Pretty much the same thing that we told them.
and 20.
Basically, well, fine, like a mile roundabout.
It would be. It is literally like a 1 mile radius from that. As the center.
Complain about.
Center.
So you know where
Say,
2700
Most of them, hell yeah, we don't want that.
What do you call it when you drop a nuke?
'cause I think
Ground
it's
zero?
Yeah.
Is that the new subdivision?
Yeah.
And oh, yeah, you're getting, you talked
I
about.
don't think people can see that because they can't see.
I'm just gonna make a match once I get you, once I get you.
left two,
And Parker just have to go.
2 acres for me.
Because I like to do that.
Oh, I mean, yes,
We just good.
no,
You're correct.
no.
Yes.
I don't, I was.
He's guessing what Steph's doing.
I got
What's
that.
Steph
I
doing?
do.
Much more stress in his
Not-
life.
She just committing
Yeah,
her funds
like
and
lawn and
stuff.
everything already, or? This year?
I'll probably get all the sprinkling system in.
Hey, how quickly did Miranda need all that?
Other
He wants the fairly
It
quickly.
could be a high reservoir.
Board meeting next week?
Phases,
Yeah, but
3 and 4.
I can get them. I can get them.
One,
Yes,
two,
yes.
three.
Mhm. I have to have those numbers done, so.
yeah,
And I'm breaking it out in different neighborhood areas. So
Okay.
I do have
Yeah.
to get them
Get her the
connected with that.
Texas shape.
And also go.
I
and
don't
show
know,
what we're doing
like, he must be
behind.
staying for a little while.
okay.
So we did his house for him. And just, they was, I'm sure he would.
Well, I'm waiting for permission to approve it, once they approve it, then I'll let them know, we're working on finding us a representative. I think we should go after that representative.
So,
Concrete.
the AC running?
Yes, we do. It's always running here.
Like, oh, really?
For some reason, it's just been cold all the time.
Last Friday, I'm just,
So they
I'm,
changed.
I got my hand on my mouse and feel like I'm trying to get all the snapping done and everything. And I'm like,
Oh, in your
Oh,
office.
that's.
Yeah.
It's right here.
I went down to the, Weaver State store. I bought it.
It's
cold.
Yeah.
And really lit.
All of that.
Yeah.
We shouldn't.
Environmental
we shouldn't
tourism.
need it.
Temperatures.
It's funny, I saw.
It'd be like low sixties in here.
Yeah.
Not all.
I just said, hey. That's what I said.
Trying to trust the dampers.
That's
for the
little heat come out.
Warm up the office.
I mean, I think, I could see Buxton would be on, he might.
I've got a question about AC bills. There's a lot of offices.
I'm glad I got an extra jacket or two now.
What's his name?
Are we?
Kyle, Jason Kyle, he has 2 first names. Never trust me on 2 first names.
Stay too.
It's on their call.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Nobody.
Super
Okay.
good.
Wait a second, so you wanna tell me
So
Stephanie Russell?
I had.
Never trust a guy
Oh,
with 2 first names.
So girls,
I didn't
okay?
think we were gender, I didn't know we were getting gender.
That was gender specific.
Yeah.
Which is funny, it's funny that you say that. So,
Read your names, yeah.
at one point I needed to talk to you about Aaron Starks. at some
Oh, they
point.
did.
Not Aaron? This is just a natural.
You can see the email that this guy
So
sent me.
cool outside.
First of all, he calls me Russ.
Clerk said over
I
there
don't know
it's
why he
71,
thinks my
but
name is
okay.
I feel
Russell.
like it's 71.
But
71
every
on these
time,
streets
I
right
will,
here.
every time he sends me an email, he keeps asking the county for money,
Oh, again?
again, like over and over.
Oh, this is the air force. That's where they're.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he can get us tied in with Paper State.
They said everybody read it down.
Yeah. I think we're already there.
Anyway, I'm like, I told Chris Roybal, I'm like, listen, I can't,
No.
he has stood us up 3 times, he has stood us up. One time he called, he was supposed to be here in person, and he's like, well, I'm in Washington DC right now, and we're like, we have a meeting with you in an hour, when were you gonna let us know that you aren't coming?
Good friend of mine.
And anyway, it's just a. he's-
All right, put him on hold.
His brother.
All right, let's get going. Sorry for the delay. Let's talk about our 2:30 discussion regarding Longhorn Estates. We got Lync's Construction, Pat's here, Sean's here, Wilkinson, Rick Grover, Chad Meyerhopper, Charlie Ewert's here, Steve Burton. And I think we're there. Okay, Gary, is this you again or Rick
I don't
or
know.
Chad? Or Steve?
I think, well, Pat,
Pat
set this up.
kind of set this up.
Okay. So this is regarding the 15+ people we had in our conference room. Couple, 3 week, maybe it's a month or so,
Right.
that so you probably heard about this, Pat.
I actually watched it, yeah.
Okay, all
I
right, so
didn't-
you're aware of their complaints and.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Well, funny thing is I had actually met with them
a week ahead before this meeting for about an hour and a half and addressed a lot of their issues, which was kind of funny. I heard him say in the meeting that they hadn't talked to me and hadn't seen me. I was like, that's interesting that I spent an hour and a half with them to, you know, just a week before. But anyway, I
Okay.
just did want to put that. We did get a meeting with actually everybody but Charlie. So we've all met and kind of gone over this. After, you know, they did the slideshow. So I had a copy of the slideshow and I just wrote a bunch of notes, can kind of go over that. If you guys want to kind of hit me with what they had said, and I can answer that too, or however you guys want to kind of work with this. I just want to make sure that I get everything answered that you guys have. I know the big questions, those are easy. The answer to the big questions.
Well, I guess the big questions, do you disagree with any of the specific issues, i.e. uncompleted items on their list that need to be, you know, it appeared to me personally, I'm not speaking for the commission,
Sure.
that they had some legitimate beefs on a number of those things, like, you know, irrigation pressure and whatever. So my question is, do you have a way forward to solve them?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna kind of go backwards just a little bit, except for Miss Bolus, because she doesn't know a whole lot about what happened back there. If you guys remember, if you don't, I understand, I'll kind of remind you. So I did not develop this subdivision. I bought 5 lots in the subdivision and built the homes. I was at C of O and couldn't get C of O because the developer had not put in the gas and the power.
Who was the prior developer?
Justin and Dean Barrow. So they were the prior developers. So I had bought the lots from them and then put the house.
So you just bought 5 lots?
I bought 5 lots.
Okay, that's, what is it, 15 lots, 16?
16 now.
Okay, all right, got it, okay.
You didn't
And
buy the development, you just bought 5 lots.
at the beginning, yes.
Okay.
So I bought the 5 lots and then I had 4 of the houses to C of O and they were sold. And so I obviously couldn't get C of O because they hadn't put in power and gas or the rest of the offsites or the escrow stuff they had. Anyway, so I couldn't wait anymore. And so I went ahead and paid for the gas and the power to go in. It was about $150,000. And so I put it all in, got my houses done, got everything finished, and then went to them and said, okay, look, just give me the money. I know you guys don't have any money. That's why I paid for it, but give me a couple lots, pay for my, you know, I need my money back.
You're talking about barrels?
Barrels, yes.
Okay, got it.
So then they said, well, we don't have any money, you know, blah, blah, blah. I actually went in and audited all their files, met with our hard money lender. If they sold the rest of their lots at full price, they would have still been upside down almost $300,000. So obviously I was never getting my money back. Their lender was filing a notice of default on them and about to foreclose. So then I would have been screwed for good. So they owned the 40 acres. So you can see where Vaquero is, the 7100 West, and there's 40 acres behind it. So I came in and bought.
That piece there, Pat?
Yep, that piece right there.
Okay.
And so I bought, I took over their development because I had to buy them out of bankruptcy. I had to pay the $300,000 off and then gave them some money to take over the rest of the subdivision. So they wanted to come in and finish all of the sidewalk and the escrow stuff that they had. And so I said, okay, you guys come in and finish it, do the escrow, whatever it is, because they wanted the money back because it was their cash that went in for the escrow. Well, as time went on, they never finished it. That's when Gary and I actually started getting to know each other really well back then, because Gary was just new back then too, or not new, but maybe newer to the position. So we had gone out there, and what was on the plans was an open ditch for the storm drain. So Gary and I met on site, and it was 4 feet deep of a ditch. We decided to go ahead and pipe it, so I piped it. We started figuring everything out that we could figure out. And the sidewalks weren't in, and there was no landscaping that was done. And the main part, the main head gate and the pond wasn't finished. So I had to come in and finish. You can see the top right rectangle. that's the main pond. And then I came and finished, I had to dig the pond to the south going straight.
This, the smaller one.
Yeah, all the way, because this was a gravity fed secondary system, which is horrible. So I shot all the elevations to find out if I started clear back where the pond was, I had already lost any pressure to the front from, the difference from where the arrow is to the beginning of the subdivision is only, do you remember what it was, Gary? We shot, it was like
I don't remember.
8 inch, 6 inches. I mean, it's nothing.
It's flat out there.
It's horrible, yeah. And so we were trying to get as much fall as we could, so I had to bring the pond as far as I could, because I can bring water at a level. That doesn't ever change. And then I was just trying to get the elevation for dropping into the gravity fed secondary system. And well, we had been working out with the county and actually when I came with you guys for the rezone, I had mentioned that, hey, I didn't do this secondary water system. But with this rezone, and when I start phase 2, I will come in, dig the main part of the pond out, dig it out, line it, and put a pump in. Do it the way it's supposed to be done. It's not rocket science. And then I would abandon the rest of the gravity fed, but use the 15-inch pipe going in front of everybody's home. That's kind of a conduit. So I'd take a 2.5 inch or 3 inch line, whatever the engineers figured out that I need to feed everybody off of a pressurized system out of the new pond that I built. And then I would give everybody pressurized secondary. But I just can't do it until we get phase 2 done. So a little more history. I came in through phase 2. I put in at-risk construction. I put all the water lines in, put everything. I have it to curb and gutter right now. Right now, there's curb and gutter for phase 2 sitting out there.
Which is what we call Longhorn.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Came in to get the final on it. And I didn't know that Justin and Dean, they had told me and gave me paperwork that said they had approvals for septic systems in the phase 2. So I thought we were all done. We're finalized, came in for the final hearing. I know you were there. I think Chad, and I had no idea. Summer came in and said, Pat, you're not approved. I was like, yeah, right, Summer. Here's the paperwork. She goes, no, this is for your PERT test. But I didn't have the other test. I can't remember what it was. I was like, okay, well, when can we get that done? She goes, next year. Because we had missed the cutoff date by a month or something. Anyway, that's when I started working with you guys about taking the sewer down a little mountain, trying to figure another solution to make this second phase work. And then we were going to go to Randy's Lagoons. And then, as you guys know, the history with the sewer out there. So in the meantime, I went and got with Richard Jex, who is the lead guy for septic systems. We got it approved to put in a leach field in the back corner of the property, but we all knew, I came and presented to you guys. We knew that was just temporary. I'm just giving you some more history. Well, since then we've worked a way to do a low pressure system all the way out to Little Mountain. So we don't have to do that anymore.
So you do have that figured out?
Well, we have it figured out. And we've been kind of working with Little Mountain to get annexed in, working with discussions. I don't want to take too far about using your guys' easement to take the 4-inch line all the way down to Little Mountain to where their lift station is. That's what we've kind of got figured out.
Okay.
So then I came in and presented to rezone this, to the new rezone. And then that's when we kind of got stopped because we didn't have the letter from the culinary water and letter from the Parks District. And so then that's, I would have already had this moving and to that next phase, but we got held up on that. A little more information on that. Randy Giordano would not give me the letter for water.
For culinary water.
For culinary, because he found out that I was taking the sewer down through Randy Marriott's piece, going behind him and taking it all the way down to the Mountain lift station. Because for me, I'm digging right through Randy Marriott's field. It's a 4-inch pipe. I got to go 4.5 feet deep. I mean, it is easy as pie. Randy wanted me to go through 12th Street and go down. Giordano, yes, not Marriott.
Why would he care?
Great question. because he wants to hook the sewer up. And he said, I am sick of you developers coming in and not improving the surrounding areas. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're not allowing anybody else to hook up. I said, I'll allow anybody else to hook up. I don't care. It'll be a pioneer agreement. You pay a little fee. I don't care.
Yeah.
And he says, well, that's not right, Pat. You can't do that. And I said, well, Randy, I bought a new shotgun last month. What do you care? What do you have to say about that? He goes, well, what does that mean? I said, exactly, Randy. This is my money. I'm putting the sewer system in. I'm not getting any help from the county. Nobody's paying me to do it. So if I don't put it in front of your house, you're not signing the letter? He said, no, I won't sign it. And if anybody else in here signs it, I'll resign as the head. So, and you guys know Randy. So needless to say, I said, okay. And I walked out of that meeting. We have since had a couple more meetings and I've calmed him down. And I said, look, Randy, if you really want me to, I'll take it and put it in front of your house. I'll come down through Randy Mayor's piece, come down 83 and come across in front of his house. It's like, or 75, maybe, anyway, the street, is it 83?
75.
75. No.
He's just east of 79, so.
Okay, yeah,
On 12.
on 12.
Yeah, okay, all
So
right.
anyway, worked that out with him and now we have a letter.
Seems a little abusive to me, but anyway.
Well, that's Randy.
Okay.
And then I went to the Parks Department and got their letter. It took me 2 months to get their letter and their letter was still, we gotta work on that. They're trying to say I gotta pay $7,500 per lot. I was like, oh, that's a little taking, or, well, this is what we need. And so anyway, we are discussing that. So we do have a letter and we're in the works of what that will be per lot. And then that's when I met with all the people from Vaquero. So they came to the parks meeting. And so I was done in 5 minutes. And then they had some questions for the park. So I actually stood around and just waited for about 20-30 minutes. They all got done with what they were saying. I said, hey, I assume you guys want to talk to me or you wouldn't have all showed up because you knew I was here. Anyway, I spent a good hour with them and explained everything to them about the HOA and they.
Was that after or before our meeting?
Before your meeting.
Interesting.
And that's why I was saying it's interesting in your meeting, they told you that I was hard to get a hold of and couldn't get anything. And they didn't mention that I spent an hour with them. So in the meeting, with talking with them, they said, well, we want the HOA back because our neighbor's I said, I'll give you the HOA. I don't want the HOA, but if I give it to you, Vaquero is gone. Oh, another piece I forgot to tell you guys, sorry. With all the stuff that happened with Justin, I assume you guys have heard stuff that's gone on with Justin and the Barrows, and anyway, him and I got in a huge lawsuit and he sued me. Then he put Liz Pendants, thank you. A Liz Pendants on Vaquero. And in my lending docs for my lender, it says if there's a Liz Pendants ever filed on a piece of property, it's immediately foreclosure. And I called Justin and Dean and said, look, if you guys keep this Liz Pendants on, here's the paperwork. I'm not lying to you. My lender will foreclose. We don't care. After I paid them off. And so they foreclosed on me. My lender did. So I actually don't even own Vaquero or the 40 acres anymore. I personally don't. So my lender took it over, and because I had borrowed, like I said, we had put it's got curb and gutter in phase 2 right now. So we're about 1.2 million into that. So when they foreclosed, obviously, nobody came to the foreclosure sale to buy it out. So they foreclosed and they said, hey, Pat, you owe us 1.2 million. Because that's what they put into that. It was actually 1.6. And I said, well, let me develop it for you. I'll come in, finish the rest of it, develop it. And there's plenty of profit throughout the rest of the subdivision, but I'll just be the developer. I won't take one penny until you guys are paid 100% back, and then we'll split the profit. They're like, done, let's do it. So 2020 LLC owns the property right now. So Vaquero is not even owned by me or controlled by me. I am the representative developer.
Which bank?
It's a hard money lender. 2020 LLC is the name of their company.
Hard money, okay, got it.
So, but again, I will still, Gary and I had met on site, and I think Ashley, you were there too. But we talked about the sidewalks and the stuff that wasn't done in phase 1. And it had got, I can't remember all the details, we were just doing sidewalk on one, or trail on one side and not anything on the other. Gary, tell me if I'm saying this wrong, but, and then I think you wanted me to put sidewalk on both sides.
I think we went back and forth and we ultimately decided as long as there's a 10-foot surface somewhere out there. I think that's, isn't that what we decided on, Charlie? And I don't remember if we cared as much if it's split up on each side of the road or one side or whatever. Yeah.
So what we had kind of agreed upon was I would put, if you look at Fate, can you scroll up just a little bit? So there's the 4 houses on the right. So if we didn't have to put sidewalk up into the cul-de-sac where it says Vaquero CT, I would put sidewalk on the 4 houses on the right, and then on the left, I would carry a trail all the way down. Now, again, that's what I remember. And if you guys want me to change that, that's okay. As long as I didn't have to come up into the cul-de-sac, then we would just take a trail going down, because the park is right across the street, Reese Park. That's what I remember us talking about, but again, it kind of came back to, we'll figure it out, you know, when we get there. And this was because we all thought I was about to have approval on phase 2. And then that didn't happen, so I've been continually working on now coming up with the approvals for phase 2. So right now, we're at the point of rezoning for phase 2 and then preliminary and final, and the second we have it, I can have curb and gutter in. I mean, I have curb and gutter in now, but I can have asphalt as soon as Gary and Chad, we finish some of the stuff and make sure the secondary is pressurized and put in.
And you've got enough irrigation shares to
So there-
supply irrigation to both places?
I haven't dedicated more shares, but there's 8 shares right now, which is more than enough to do what's existing. And then I'll have to put in another 8 shares for phase 2, which would be 16 total shares.
And you're gonna pressurize it for both?
Correct. I have to pressurize it for one.
Yeah.
And that's where I wasn't gonna go spend all that money to pressurize it for phase 1, but I will for phase 2 and then upsize my pumps. I'm actually gonna make sure it's even bigger to, you know, to feed whoever needs it. I'm actually working with the developer on the right-hand side. He wants to put one in, and Marriott's might wanna do some more stuff on their ground. So there's no point in having 10 ponds. Let's just do 1 pond together. And do it right, line it, put the bigger pumps in, so anyway,
You have
that's,
the capacity and the depth and the.
I'd have to dig it, I have to dig it deeper. So part of it is about 10 feet deep. The main lake that's been there for the longest is probably only,
Foot.
yeah, when it's full, it's probably about 2.5 to 3
Yeah.
feet deep. And again, I didn't build it, I didn't do anything with it, I kind of got stuck with it. What I put in, I dug it deeper. Cause, you know, I wanted the capacity.
Right. Okay,
So,
so you say curb and gutter's in on phase 2,
phase 2 curb and gutter is in,
you're just waiting for asphalt?
and putting the secondary water in.
Right.
But everything else, I mean, the fire hydrants are in, everything else is done.
Culinary water lines are in?
Culinary water lines are in, have been baked, they've been tested. Well, they'll probably make me redo it all, but yeah, it's not tear it out, but just retest it.
Have you got a will serve from LMSA?
No, not yet.
We're getting annexed in. So we filled all the
They're
annexation
working on
paperwork
the
out.
annexation process. Once he gets that through, then he can apply for a will serve.
Okay.
So it'll be several months.
You what?
It'll be several months.
Yeah. Okay, you're aware of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm working with Pat on that.
For the rezone, he doesn't need a will serve, he just needs a letter of acknowledgement.
Right.
Something like
That we're working
sewer
with.
district acknowledges that this is happening and maybe some conditions of service if they have it.
We can do that.
And then just so you know, I was gonna make sure by the time we get to that point, cause as you guys know, better than anybody, the sewer thing has been this to this to this. If I'm digging down 12th Street, work with Gary, if you guys want another line ran with my line, I'm already digging it, might as well do a return line if it's all pressurized. And again, this is just me thinking out loud, that's all.
So one of the things you will have to deal with LMSA is that, if you do a line down 12th Street, that line would have to be dedicated to the district.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
If you wanted to do anything but yourself, it would either be your lateral and only you would be able to connect to it, but if anyone else wanted to connect to that, it would have to be dedicated to the
Yeah,
district.
I would want other people, if I'm spending all that money to
And
get
then
in
we need
there, I
to
would
look
just
for
get a
that,
pioneering
My
agreement.
suggestion is you need to set a time up to come to LMSA board meeting.
Yeah. I
That's,
was-
that's an LMSA decision,
Yes, sir.
so
Yeah.
I, timing's appropriate there. Okay, Rick, so what's planning, Steve?
So.
What's your take on this?
When we met with you last, I mean, I can see where Pat's put in a hard
Yeah.
spot here. But when we met with the residents, said timeout, let's put this on hold until all those improvements are taken care of with the Carroll Phase 1. So I'm wondering if it might be good to, I mean, if you guys are okay with Pat moving forward with Longhorn, and we do some type of development agreement or something that ties the Carroll Phase 1 to Longhorn. And then meet with the residents maybe to let them know that you're willing to proceed with it. And I don't know if you are. Cause last time we talked, you said, no, we've got to have all those taken care of before we look at the Carroll Phase 2, which is now called Longhorn. And that's what was represented to the residents. And so if we proceed with Longhorn, then we're not following what we just told the residents a few weeks ago. And so my suggestion might be to set up a work session next week or the following week or just whenever before we take it to back to the planning commission with Pat and the residents and let them know, where the county wants to go with this. But Pat's caught in a hard spot here. And so I can understand some of his plight, but if we're able to tie everything together through some type of development agreement and then move it forward, that way it would protect and guarantee that those improvements happen with the Carroll Phase 1 as part of Longhorn.
Okay, well,
And I am along those lines in the development agreement. The second I get final on Phase 2, not final with you guys, but final with the planning commission, it opens my funding up. Right now, I have no funding.
right.
But as soon as I get final for just Phase 2, not for the other 3, 4, 5 phases, just final on Phase 2,
How many lots at Phase 2?
16, 17.
Okay, got it.
Then it opens my funding up for the pumps, the secondary water, everything. And in the development agreement, we can word it where before I start selling lots or make any money for myself, I will put in the secondary pond correctly. I'll put in a pressurized secondary water system correctly, and we can work on the sidewalks and if we're doing trees or whatever. Is landscaping was that in the escrow? I don't
There is,
remember.
But I had a question. When you said Phase 2, I'm thinking that means Longhorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying Phase 2 just for ease of it, if for all of us, we hate Vaquero. Vaquero is a kick in the teeth for us, so that's why we renamed it
But I
Longhorn.
mean, you're not doing a rezone just for 16 lots, are you?
No. That's Phase 1 of Longhorn. Longhorn has 3 phases.
Got it.
There's 45-ish lots.
Right, okay.
We don't have the retention pond in there. Yes, I'm gonna lose a couple lots. It's just a preliminary sketch of
I got it.
what.
Yeah,
Phase 2
I've
would be.
been confused Longhorn, Vaquero, so.
Yeah,
now
sorry.
After 2 months, I finally figured it out, thanks.
Yeah, so I would just we just call it Longhorn Phase 1. That's what I'm going for, which is the same as Vaquero Phase 2, like they were saying that they were lied to. They were saying, yeah, they were saying they were lied to on Vaquero Phase 2. It's exactly the same as what Vaquero Phase 2 is going in. They just, like every homeowner, expects that all open land from here on out will never be developed.
Right.
That's where they said I lied to them and I misled them, and like, no, I just.
Well, we
told
wanna
you
solve
what
the problem
is.
out there.
Absolutely.
The only way I see this being solvable is to get his financing back in his pocket. Which is, if that means we have to do a final on Phase 2. In my opinion, we need to make that happen. With some very strict structured
Absolutely.
development agreement. So that's. The only way if we're gonna solve their problem, there's no way forward other than that, unless. You wanna pull money out of your pocket, which I'm assuming since it's not even, you're not doing this 100% for yourself.
Right,
Kind of an interesting situation.
yeah.
So I don't know, where do you wanna go with this?
I like that idea, where I am.
That's where you are?
What concerns do you have?
My concern is more with the residents out there and letting them know where you guys are at on this, and if you want us to meet with the residents and Pat off to the side and, you know, we explain to them what direction you've given us, I'm fine with that too.
Well, the residents have to be brought on board.
Yeah.
But I think we, you know, ask the residents, how else you gonna solve this if you don't go this way?
Right.
I mean, if they all wanna ante up some money, great, but I don't see that happening.
And we could.
I mean, I'm looking, we obviously we have their best interest in mind. How's the best way to solve it? That's how I see we solve it.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna be sitting here talking about this another year and they're not gonna have anything in that subdivision. So let's, you know,
And we could take it to a planning commission work session and just start it there and, you know, not just say we've gotten direction from you guys and I just proceed that way.
I don't think a planning commission would be a bad way to go. But I don't see any reason that we want to particularly meet with all 15 residents again. I mean,
Yeah,
I would just say, this is our proposal. If you got a better proposal, the other proposal is everybody antes up 10 or 15,000 bucks out of your own pocket to make this happen. That's the only other, how else you didn't make it happen? You tell me.
Do we have any money in escrow?
The county's not gonna pay for it.
We have,
there is some.
we have some for some sidewalk.
So that's what we say, we got this much, you guys wanna ante up, we got this much in sidewalk, that's how you can do it, but
Yeah.
otherwise, this is the other way we do it.
So this should be their solution, not ours, but this is how I see it. And again, the only other solution I see, short of you guys coming up with that of your pockets, I don't think you're going to, is the residents have to. So,
Okay. Well, let's go back to the planning commission and a work session, it sounds like, and then we can invite the residents and then take it to a public hearing.
Who made this meeting?
Pat,
I'd like the residents to know that. Pat heard the meeting, on his own accord, came in and was proactive to do that. That to me shows character. I like that. Just my thought.
well, in this education we just received in the last 20 minutes in terms of the title I mean, this is not your typical.
No.
When I looked at this, when they came in, okay, this is your typical real estate developer. So he can take money from this project to put there. That's not where we're at.
Right.
So better or worse, but you know, you're not gonna sit here and tell us a story.
No, sir.
So,
You guys will see me a lot more. I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't burn my bridge on this development.
no.
Or any other, but yeah.
Well, that's the way I see it. Commissioner Bowles, you have a better suggestion or you know, but I would just say, look, residents, Pat's come in, he's explained the situation. We've analyzed it. We are fully committed to solve your problem. We want it cured, maybe not as bad, but just closely as bad as you do. This is our path forward.
These are the two paths forward we see.
And if you don't like it, then you create an HOA. You've already got an agreement that I'm assuming that the
It's all drawn up.
title owner will deed you the HOA. The HOA then has to assess all you folks 10, 15, 20,000 bucks to fix it.
All right,
That's how it's gonna come down.
for sure. Okay. We'll do it.
So. Okay.
Okay.
Done. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
But I would get in with that LMSA board meeting.
Yeah, we've been working.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got him on the October agenda.
Yeah.
Yes.
we've been
And I'm
working.
working with him on his annexation.
I look at that clock, right on time.
Well,
Well, the clock's on time, I'm saying, not us.
the clock is about
fixed it
eight,
good when I
it's
fixed
about
it.
8 seconds fast.
It is?
They're really gonna design.
Sorry.
Thanks, guys.
8 seconds.
Thanks to you.
Not, nothing unusual, I'm just making a statement.
All right.
The sheriff's not coming, but
He's not coming.
they all went to a conference in St. George, but I can give you guys an update.
Okay, great. Who else is coming? So,
That, no one,
No,
but we've
just
been
us.
busy all weekend and you wanna hear an update, Jim?
I'd like to hear an update.
Yeah, on what again?
Sheriff's office.
The sheriff and his chiefs are gone to St. George, they left this morning, so
Okay,
here's the update.
As they're doing.
Starting last Friday, we took, meaning I zoomed in for part of it.
this was,
You were gone.
What?
This was their sheriff's huddle or
No, this was they're talking about the bond
the bond?
messaging.
Okay, got it.
So
Okay.
we took the documents that they got from DTO, and went
Oh,
through
yeah.
those with Chris
I wanna
Crockett's
make sure
input.
the county's out of it.
I sent you guys a brief text update. A lot of it was not usable, it wasn't legal, but they picked out the parts they could.
So this was dealt with the DTO work,
No,
the $8,000.
Yeah,
$1 bill.
right, right.
Okay, you got that solved?
I wanna stay
What's
aware
that?
of what they're
The
doing.
8,000, did we come to agreement on that or?
We're still trying to get our money's worth.
Okay.
We're holding them to it.
Okay,
I'll shoot you
So,
an email.
we
and
took the
you can-
documents,
The other thing.
we took
too
the
with them is
documents,
They're asking
um,
if certain things can be kept
Chris weeded out the things that we
confidential.
can't, that's advocacy that we can't print. Started over. DGO was on the call, Jessica was on the call, the sheriff, his team, they were all on the call.
Any questions, just.
Cool.
Cool.
Oh, this is the real one.
I'm gonna forward you the email so you can look at it.
Anyway. I don't think so.
okay. Are we still recording? Okay. I guess it's still a public meeting, okay?
I can hear Stephanie
Oh.
talking and you.
Anyway, regrouped. And then that group got together again last Friday for 4 hours. Stephanie was part of that. I don't know if she wants to jump in. I'll just give you the general idea. And I wasn't part of that, but I came in, we all met this morning at 8 and just started out with these are the bullet points we need to cover. Quinn is right now working with Jessica. Chris is not available, I don't think. So Quinny's working with Jessica. Get that content. The content for the website is likely gonna be done by tomorrow at noon. And then
Now, is that our website or
it's the sheriff's website.
sheriff's website?
Well, it's a
No,
link
it's
from
not.
ours.
It's the elections website. It is the county's.
Oh, it is the elections?
Website.
Okay.
All right,
And then everything that would be on our page or the sheriff's page would be something that would direct it
It
to
will
that.
always link to that.
Right.
okay.
And right now, that link is live and it has the voter information pamphlet. So the voter information pamphlet has just the legal requirements. We have to say what it's for, how much it will impact every taxpayer, all that stuff. That's what goes out with the ballot.
Okay,
So that's what's there now. I think Quinny and Jessica are gonna be, by day's end, probably close to being done with the content.
So we're calling that the master public relations document. That's what they're working on today. And it has to meet certain standards. And so that will then go onto the website and replace the VIP. The VIP was created to send out with the ballots. And we have to create that per the state statute. This website, this landing page we have also has voter information on it, but it will have a little more information than what the VIP had. And that all has to go through our legal department. And so that's what they're doing today. They're creating the content for this landing page. That content will then be used for mailers, emails, social media posts, all of that content.
So once that document's finished, it'll just sit there. And anybody, there's an advocacy group that's formed, they can pull their information from there. Any mailers that we do, the information will be pulled from there, so it's all the same message. It's all
Vetted.
It's all vetted. Okay, so.
that information is not gonna change.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Got it.
Great.
It'll have
But
some drop
you guys
down
will Be
screens,
able
but
to look at it before it goes live.
so this is what, so I told you guys this, or well, I told Gage this earlier, by the time you see anything that's gonna go out, whether it's a mailer, a social media post, an email, anytime you see that, you two see it, it will have been approved by me, Chris Crockett and the sheriff.
Okay,
So all those eyes have seen it. So you're gonna see the same things over and over because again, we're coming from one document. So if you get tired of looking at it, just know that it's not just our eyes, it's another probably 3 or 4 sets of eyes. Once the document's done, I would really like you to read through that and make sure you're comfortable with that because that's the main messaging document.
and when's that? That'll be tomorrow?
Hopefully tomorrow.
Hopefully tomorrow.
I mean, they might get it done tonight, but
Okay.
the IT guy who puts it on the website, he's
Got it.
off at 3. So they're gonna keep working.
Now,
And-
now this is totally separate than this independent group that's
Yeah.
gonna be there
Correct,
for the.
but they'll get their information from that.
Yeah.
So all their information will be factual, but then they'll advocate for it.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
So
makes sense.
the other thing to go along with that, once the content is done, Jessica and I are meeting with Sasha tomorrow. And I have a checklist, which is right here. And this is an action item checklist in the plan to roll that public information out. And so I'm meeting with Jessica and Sasha tomorrow, and we are putting the timeline and the who's doing what together. So there's a whole bunch of items on this list that have to get done in the next very short while. So we'll decide on, we'll organize that tomorrow, and then we'll bring that to the DTO meeting on Wednesday, so that you guys know who's doing what and when it's going out.
Great.
And back to the invoice, so anything that was on that invoice will likely be an action item for them.
But they might, we'll see how that all pans out.
Yeah, well, I mean,
So-
we don't want them to commit to anything if they don't have the bandwidth to do it, because we're on a very short timeline.
Right.
And I don't think it's gonna be Sasha, I think it's gonna be Shazine, and what we envision is for Jessica and Shazine to just side by side work this, as anything goes out. They'll just work side by side to make sure that, the looks as
Huge.
important as the message too,
Right.
right? We're gonna go from the VIP document that Stephanie created, same color scheme, same. So everything that they get from us looks the same, they know what they're reading,
And they know it's coming from the
and they
county.
know it's coming from the county,
And it's
then any
been
other
vetted.
group can be,
Whatever.
whatever they want.
Mhm.
But, they're gonna work side by side, that's why I don't think it's gonna be Sasha, cause I don't think she can do that, I don't think she has the time.
Yeah.
That's what they're gonna talk about tomorrow.
Shazine,
They're gonna talk
but
about
she's
who
working,
that's gonna
she's
be.
working side by
Yeah.
side with Jessica.
Yes.
So anything on their plan that they
I like
build,
that.
that they build the sheriff for will likely be done by the distribution, email, things like that.
Yeah, and
So-
we're gonna work out those details tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, we're just gonna divide and conquer. Here's the list. We're gonna divide and conquer
Great.
it tomorrow, and then Wednesday we'll have a full-on game plan.
Sounds like you're 100% on board here.
I think we're in a good spot.
No,
How you feel like things are going?
We need to get it out there.
You're not a
Become-
kid.
I don't think there's a lot of people that
We're a
know
little
that
bit
right now.
behind. So today was the day that, public comments had to be put out, like in anyone.
I
excuse me.
CC'd them on the
Yeah, today was
request,
the
so we
day
put our
that
request
if there was
in.
any arguments against it, needed to be submitted today. So, but we
The
had
intent.
we've had that VIP up for a week, which is great. So if anyone had, wanted just basic information, it's been up and available for a week. So we'll see if we get any, arguments against it today. So,
Okay,
and then we needed to, and you submitted on behalf of the commission, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Commission also had to say
I
that they
CC'd
have
them.
an intent
We
to.
got the reply from Ricky,
Yeah.
we basically just said we intend to submit an argument for.
And Crockett's working on the argument for you guys to review and approve.
And it's
Okay.
limited to 500 words, so that's gonna be an easy
Yeah.
read, but.
So we're on target. We're tight, but still on
But
track.
we had we really reset this morning. It was great. We just took the information we had. Like I said, we cut out the things that legally we can't do and started back up. So,
Great.
And I
Good.
think the collaboration's working really nice.
good, everybody's getting along
Everyone's
there.
getting along and everyone's, yeah.
and everyone's working
And
hard.
everyone's
Jessica,
like,
hard.
seriously, everyone
How
has
you
jumped
liking
on.
her?
That's a major lift.
You spent 4 hours with Jessica last week. I think she's doing
She's
great.
doing great.
I
She's
think,
so easy to work with.
and I think that she kind of just got pulled in as, when I was on the morning Zoom meeting, we had Shazine and somebody else I don't know.
Ally maybe?
Ally?
I don't know.
Anyway, and it seemed like Jessica was jumping in with her ideas, but then I didn't know what her experience was in the afternoon meeting, her
Oh, she
contribution.
took the lead on it.
I do know when we left this morning, we walked out from the sheriff's office together and he was like, here's the plan.
Did she? Good.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah. she
Well, I
took-
was
like I
in,
said, it's really a reset. There was a lot of unusable stuff, and so. we-
Okay, well, that's good though, but
I mean, we
I'm
have,
glad to know because Crockett's keeping us safe,
yeah,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
and
and
Jessica's
Natalie's
And
taken-
it causes
and
some
Jessica's taken
frustrations
all of our
sometimes, but
feedback from this,
we
and
have
she's
to
able
do
to,
it.
she's able to take the feedback and then process it really quick and put it into what they're asking, which has been a really helpful. She's even down to like verbiage, like she was talking to Ricky, I walked in on her office, she's talking to Ricky, and she's like, well, that's not, we're actually using this phrase instead of that phrase. So can you change your social media post so it says this phrase, so it's consistent with the county? So, yeah.
the
and-
consistency is a huge deal.
Yeah.
But anyway, and she's really,
And she works really well with DCHO's team, so.
see, that's what I like, is that
And
they're
I-
working,
They're
Yeah.
working,
they're working hand
and
in
glove.
glove.
and I didn't think
Yeah.
she
was
did.
it hand on or hand in?
And glove to glove.
Both,
Yeah.
either this or,
I'm
I had
calling
a
it, I'm
talk-
calling it divide and conquer.
So I had a talk with Ryan this morning and he asked me, who? Ryan.
you can't
Arbon.
call him that. I just never know him as that.
I don't know him either.
Sheriff Arbon this morning, and he asked me, he said, you think you could call Chuck Leonhardt?
Mhm.
And I said, sure, he told me, so I had a conversation with Chuck and
Good.
he's gonna get, and so right now I've got Ryan and Chuck talking. He was sick, he wanted it to come, he wanted me to make the request, not him, cause he thought it'd be better. And so after a little bit of a conversation, some talk with Chuck. Chuck's on board and he's gonna get with Sean Myers, who's the chair of the executive board now and get.
Oh, Sean is?
They're gonna do letters of support.
Yeah,
Good.
right.
Yeah, we could get the chamber involved with this.
Yeah, that's what,
And really-
that's we are.
Anyone, there are
So,
individuals,
He asked me to get the
Laura's
downtown
Laura's
alliance.
behind it
Yeah.
and a lot of.
Yeah, the
Laura
downtown
Weber-
Wherever, oh, yeah.
And,
Ogden
and
downtown.
anyone who
Yeah.
feels
They
strongly
wanna
about
see
it, we need to
diesel.
let them know the avenues
Bye
that
bye
they
out of
can,
Yeah.
that
downtown.
they can publish.
Well, isn't Bob Hunter working on that too?
Yeah, Bob's involved. Mhm.
How's that going?
How's Bob doing with the COE? by the
I
way?
have that update. I'll do it tomorrow at our
Okay.
admin meeting.
Okay, get that update.
We're
Cool,
getting there.
cool. Well, I'm good. That's a good report. Appreciate
So,
it.
We got another meeting, that's tomorrow morning then at 8, right?
no, it's tomorrow morning, right after commission.
Well, that admin meeting, we got another meeting tomorrow at 8.
What?
Yeah,
Directors.
that's directors.
Directors, well, Melissa would normally sit in there, is Bob coming to
Well,
that?
we.
We do have that?
I would hope
Yeah.
that he comes.
It's our monthly directors meeting.
Somebody needs to invite him.
I asked, Stacy last week to make sure he was on the list. So
I'm sure she has.
I'll verify with Kristen. Yeah, he should be coming to all those.
Yeah.
As well, well, Jessica has been in those with our directors.
Yeah,
So-
she would have come today to this work meeting, but I said just
No,
stay
they
there. and
needed
work.
to, their wordsmithing, her and Quinny, they're really good.
They're nailing it.
I'm like, you guys stay in your
Let
corner,
me
I'm
just-
gonna go over
Tensions have
here.
been high. Tensions have been high, but everybody's working
You're
hard.
doing good, boy,
We're
I'm
getting,
glad you're here.
we're
Perfect.
getting this out and Gage is trying to take the sheriff's office out of my portfolio,
No, oh, well,
but.
I do that, but I say, who did I offer to you this morning? You took,
Parks,
yeah, I wanted you to take Parks, yeah. Oh,
Anyway, we're rolling. We're rolling.
Which
Yeah.
I
parks?
think
All of
Western,
them.
oh,
Well,
all the days.
You heard from, Pat, that group out there wanted 7,500. So the parks want control over,
you told me that.
it's like,
Quinny came into my office last week and was just kidding, what you said this morning, Quinny was like, and they wanna change the codes and they want to do this, and he's like, it's crazy. So.
yeah,
They need to hire their own attorney.
Anyway, there's your update.
okay, good.
So we can saunter now for 9 minutes.
Okay, let's saunter. All
Motion to saunter.
right,
Second.
all in favor, sauntering until 3:30.
All
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm
How was the
glad.
baseball game?
It was good. This is really the highlight of St. Louis.
So is that where you've been?
Uh-huh.
Going to, just to watch a
So
baseball?
what, we watch a baseball game for our anniversary every year.
Oh, do you? Oh,
So there are some cities I'm looking at that I'm not really looking forward to visit, like Detroit or
So what do you do?
Cincinnati.
You do a different one every year?
Detroit doesn't sound like, I wanna go to Detroit. I
Well,
like
I've heard good
vacation
things
to
about
Detroit.
Detroit.
Oh, maybe.
But-
I already know what song I'm gonna sing for Roger Brunker's retirement. All right. Even though it's.
All right, looks like we're back in session here. This is our 3:30 meeting, work session, discussion regarding clerk, auditor, treasurer staffing, Scott Park, Ricky Hatch. I don't see Emily Wild.
She is at a Oracle conference and asked that I continue without her.
And of course, we got the famous John Bond, the seer doer of all financial things within the county, so. Okay.
Looks like we're being asked to start the video. Do you want to share the video?
Let's start it.
All right. If I could, I'll just jump in really quick and then Mr. Hatch, Mr. Bond can correct me or add their. Is that okay?
There are two.
Yeah. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we came to you in a budget hearing and said, we're really worried about the system that runs the third floor, the tax system and all of its components. It's in-house design in an old tool that's going away, and asked for some additional funding to program that new system, which the commissioners granted several years ago. So IT has been working on a tax system and it actually came online just recently.
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Are you talking about a property tax system or?
Yes, the
Okay.
property tax system.
Okay, got it.
So, and the reason why we were concerned about that is because Roger Brunker, Brenda Wheelwright, and Lisa Stringham were all experts in the system. We're the only 3 experts left in that system, and they were all about to, or within a few years of retiring. So fast forward a few years, back to a couple of weeks ago, the new system comes online, and Brenda announces that she's a short timer. Right? If I can say that?
Few months, but yes.
Yes, short timer.
Yep, we're aware of
And
that.
Roger Brunker is also now a short timer, so
What's his time frame?
June 2024.
When's Brenda?
Okay.
March.
So, so what we had planned to do, we knew all this was coming, and what we had planned to do is take Roger Brunker's position and a vacant lead office specialist position that we already have funded in our budget in the clerk auditors, smush those together into one position and create an accountant 2 position that would be over payroll and related stuff. The reason why we're accelerating that instead of waiting until June is because Emily got promoted. And Emily spends a good share of her time managing the Oracle system. She was the expert in Oracle when it came online in terms
Right.
of time and attendance and all that sort of stuff. Well, she doesn't have time to do all what she was doing day to day to get all of everybody's time cards approved and troubleshoot why approvers can't approve time cards. So we either need to train somebody for 6 months to do that and then shift it over to the clerk auditor's office, or we can just accelerate the timing of what we're going to do and move it over now. We're not asking for any additional funding because we can afford to do this already. We already have enough ongoing funding to do this, to combine those 2 positions, Roger's position and that vacant position, make it a payroll office specialist, pull over the duties that HR was doing, Emily was doing, and have that person do that. We're not gonna ask for any additional money. What we do need to do though is ask to roll over the one-time payroll savings we have to fund Roger's salary through the end of June 2024. So we have enough salary in the 2023 budget that if you just let us roll that one-time payroll savings over, it'll be a one-time payroll expense in 2024. At the end of June, Roger's position will go away. And then we'll actually move Roger to an elections worker position, and he can work 3 times a year if he wants to with his wife. And that way he's still on the books. If we ever need any help with final settlement or any of the reasons why we kept him here, because he's an expert in that old system, we could bring him back on for a couple of hours because he's already on the payroll as an elections worker. But basically at the end of June, he would be done with the county unless he, as a poll worker or something like that 3 times a year because he gets bored.
Okay.
So what we're asking, so normally, we have the budget to do this. If it were HR and payroll and, the accounting with any other department, we would usually just let them do that. But because it's our office and it's HR's office, we wanted to bring it to you to let you know what we were doing and make sure that you were okay with that. Again, no ongoing funding. We don't need any new additional ongoing funding. We would just need permission to roll over the one-time funding that we already have in 2023 into 2024 to get Roger funded until June.
You had that conversation with Emily.
I've had that conversation with
So
Emily.
is she comfortable with it?
She is, she's on board with that. She wanted to be here, but she's at an Oracle conference.
Yeah.
She's trying to do both jobs right now, and it's actually kind of stressful for her. So she didn't want to wait. She wanted me to bring this up to you now, because by the time we get that position advertised and interviewed and hired, we're still a ways down the road.
Exactly. Okay.
Sorry, what?
35.
Oh, I thought you said 35 weeks. I was like,
That's
oh,
what
I
I
hope,
thought you said.
I hope not.
Why?
We'll move a little faster than 35 weeks.
Let's move a little faster.
So
Yes.
Scott, will this combined position take some of those responsibilities from Emily's old position?
It will take the time and attendance portion from Emily's position, and so HR will be HR and be in charge of the HR record, including how much an employee makes, their benefits and all that sort of stuff. Any time that an employee enters into their time card and any payroll information would be over in the clerk auditor's office, and that would be the clear delineation between them. Is this an HR employee record issue? Then it's HR. Is this a time and attendance or a payroll issue? Well, then that's clerk auditors, and that's how we would segregate those two. Because right now, we're both,
Sure.
we're in that mezzanine section where we were trying to decide with this new system, how it all kind of looks.
So there aren't responsibilities that will be taken away. It'll just be delineated more clearly.
Well, Emily is currently doing all the time and attendance, so yes, it will pull that from her.
Okay, so does that affect the position she's hiring for? Is it 30 hours a week instead of 40?
I would argue
don't know.
we need, with Oracle, it's still not implemented, this is now my opinion, it's still not implemented as well as it should be. And we've had some issues with the consultants getting back to us, we've had some issues with, it's a new system and we didn't know to ask certain questions because it was a brand new system, so we're still working through that. So I think for the next little while, what we're going to do is Emily's going to continue to work on the Oracle system with whoever replaces her, to improve that process, but I think she would argue that she would need the full 40 hours a week position. I'm thinking on our end, depending on how it all shakes out, I may not need 40 hours.
For payroll?
I may not need 40 hours for payroll and for accounting. My accounting tech, my accounts payable tech.
Okay.
And so what I'm thinking is I could probably get by with a full-time and a 29-hour-a-week person, but I'll have to see how that all shifts out. I think we want to put this on as a full-time person, and if it works out as I'm thinking, we'll probably shift somebody in our office up to do that position and then replace that full-time position with a part-time position. Because they'll be able to do some of the duties they were doing previously. It's not a full 40-hour-a-week position, but it's a 40-hour-a-week one week and about 20 hours a week the next week. So I'd have about 20 hours of capacity in a 2-week period that I could likely not have to have a replacement for my accounts payable tech as a full-time body.
That's what I expected to hear from you.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
But we need to keep focused on Oracle and Emily's, so to me, it's a good division of duties.
yeah.
So, I mean, it makes more sense that payroll comes out of your office, not necessarily HR.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that this conversation was being had. It makes total sense.
And in the old days, I think you were already in office, both of you, payroll was completely run by HR.
Yeah,
And so this is actually, I think, a good, more clean division.
Sure.
I agree.
We pulled some of it over, which was helpful, but it's nice to have managing the data versus managing the transactions. I really
Separation
like
of
that.
duties.
Yeah, no, I wondered why HR was involved with that.
Well, when Sarah came over, she's like, we should switch this, and we did with Munis, we switched it over.
Yeah.
And we were more in charge of payroll and time and attendance, but when we went with Oracle, Emily was kind of the spearhead project
Right.
manager. She pulled a lot of that. We didn't know all that would be involved in that time and attendance, and so she was doing that, and so it kind of shifted back over to her. We really want to push it back where it should be.
Okay, I can't disagree. Commissioner Bolos is in your portfolio with HR.
I was like, no, it's not.
Well, HR,
I'm great with it. That's
Okay.
great.
The reason why we have John Bond here.
Uh-oh.
yeah, tell us,
It's
is he gonna rain on our parade or?
There's another factor.
So, John Bond inspires loyalty in his staff. I'm gonna just go off for a second. He came and he's got a lot of people that really like working for him and don't want to work for anybody else.
Yeah,
If I can say it that way. And
So what, everyone's retiring? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, basically, that's what I'm saying. And
Believe what you want.
the problem is we can't not have somebody in the treasurer's office that knows what they're doing. And so we've already moved, so Brenda requested to be moved down in position to not spend so many hours.
Time-wise, yes.
Time-wise, and so what we did is we just slid her into an unfunded position and used her funding from the chief deputy position to fund that as a part-time position until she's gonna be done in February, just say March. March,
That's March.
okay, March, she'll be done, but I want to have Brenda's position be funded with one-time money from January through the end of March, and I wanna have his two positions, the one Linnell's in currently and the one that Brenda was in, as the chief deputy. I want him to be able to hire into that position and have a few months cross-training because we only do final settlement once a year. And so if this
Wow.
new person comes on right after final settlement's done, then I think we've done a disservice to ourselves. I think it's well worth the 2 or 3 month overlap of salary to have somebody in the treasurer's office learn and manage and have experience with that while you still have a good experienced staff in place. Otherwise, we're gonna get to the end of 2024 and John's gonna retire and take everybody with him. And we'll have nobody left.
Why?
Believe what you will.
Well, I've informally chatted with some of these staff and they all tell me like, I don't have to be here, I'm here for John.
Are you going back to school so that you can get the same degree that he's got?
If I were that smart.
You guys always talk about which degree is better, you know?
Him and Sean, cause we both have an MBA,
Oh.
yeah,
You digress?
I digress. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Mr. Bond?
Well, so I thought we were moving Linnell. I thought the transition was to move Linnell up.
We are.
Okay,
But then we need someone to do Linnell's job.
right. So we're moving Linnell. Brenda is gonna go till March. We know the facts and story behind there. Don't blame her. Linnell's moves up, so we have to have a new Linnell.
A new Linnell.
And so that's our ongoing full-time, but we wanna get on
A little early.
ASAP.
Yeah, and however he works his staffing out, he needs 2 bodies. He needs a Linnell position and a Brenda position. And we need someone to cross-train, whether Linnell learns Brenda's job, then the new person learns Linnell's job for the year end. However that works out,
That's up to him.
I'll defer to him, but we need an extra 3 months of salary, one-time
Okay, so
funding.
one time for Brenda,
Mhm.
one time for
Roger.
clerk auditor.
Yeah,
Right.
and the Roger we can fund with what we have already in our payroll savings, so I'll just roll that over, so I don't need to pull.
Well, John Bond's got extra money in his account, so.
John Bond runs a tight ship.
What I find interesting here,
It's called MBA, just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
what I
We have-
find
we have 1
interesting
minute.
here is that there's a request for salary being made outside of our budget presentation.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about that.
Oh, we talked about that
We
a
did.
lot. We don't, that irony does not, yeah.
Go unnoticed.
The only reason why we felt comfortable with it is there was no funding that we're asking for,
So,
no ongoing
that's,
funding.
it's okay. It's just,
This is
I
not new
support
money.
you guys.
This
I
is-
support you.
We
Rick.
discussed it.
This is old money sitting in that corner right over
Yeah,
there.
that's where you could sweep the corner.
We're sweeping.
Yeah.
You asked me if we swept middle.
Uh-huh,
No, it's your fault.
just maybe saying.
Because you, Commissioner, have now brought up a twist. I do have a couple of twists. One is Brenda has waived medical and dental for 10, 15 years.
That's right.
She has not asked the county to pay that because she has that from her family.
Right.
And so that's been a wonderful gesture from her to the county for a long time. I probably need to add medical and dental to this position because we've never had it,
Oh,
because she's always waived it. So that's an issue. So I'd like you to consider that.
we've got to do that. I mean,
And then also, Linnell's been working part-time for the clerk auditor, sort of 3/4 time with us because of whatever. So she's been working 40 hours a week. I'm gonna request if I can add permanently the 10 hours that she's been working to her position back in next year's budget. So those are the 2 requests that you'll see. I'm not gonna ask that today, but I'll just make you aware that that's where I'm headed in a couple of weeks.
Well, I appreciate that. It'd probably be during budget season when
It
you
will
do
be.
ask that, and that would be appropriate.
Yes,
so we're just gonna move her to 40 hours. Okay.
and then move the chief deputy, let it have actually full benefits.
Yeah, no, I think we'd have a hard time in today's market without that. Yeah, personally. All right. Scott, Ricky, what else?
That's it, so, and again, normally because it doesn't involve funding and we have the positions available. we
You just need to
normally we would
send out a
proceed.
signature sheet and we'll.
Well, we don't actually need that because the way our policy
Oh.
works right now, we could just go do it, but with
Oh.
HR's approval and clerk auditor's approval. But since it's HR and clerk auditor that are asking for it, that's why we wanted to bring it to you.
Got it.
Just to be transparent, let you know what we're doing.
So you're just telling us what you're doing. Okay.
Well, we're also asking for your permission.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you got it. Not that they need it, but go do it.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, JB.
See you another day.
Maybe later today.
Maybe later. Yeah.
I'm scheduled for another day. Unless we change that.
Hey, do you wanna see if Bryce is out there and send him in?
Yeah.
Weaver Center Insurance Repair. I don't have a clue what this is about.
Who's over there? Whose portfolio's there?
It's not mine.
Who has
I know it
insurance?
wasn't me.
Let me tell you who I have.
That's minutes. Well, Bryce is mine, but I don't know.
Oh, just.
But I don't
You know,
have
I'd really
insurance.
appreciate it if this came to work session before it comes up at a commission meeting.
Well, you're about to.
Bronco just texted me right now.
He did?
Who did?
That's good.
What did- what did
I'm
he
not-
want?
Dewalt Days is tomorrow, just let you know, Dewalt Days tomorrow.
Oh, really? I wanna go out and get a
11 to 1.
11 to 1. I gotta make it out there. Do all day?
You want me to pick you something up?
Well, I need a,
Did you ever get that little trimmer thing?
oh, I've got that,
That thing's a honey.
but I need a ratchet to drive, what you're telling me to
Walk
drive.
in.
Full disclosure, it's three
Screws
forty-eight,
into,
so.
to a hook fence.
You want
Yeah, I
3/8 or you
struggle.
want half inch?
Knew that you
Want the big heavy
just
one or
3 minutes,
a
behind,
little
3
one?
minutes and 8 seconds.
Probably a little heavy.
Precisely.
Well, that little 3/8 is easy to handle with it.
Well-
But I don't know if it's enough. power.
Monday late afternoon.
You don't think it has
early
enough
in
power?
the morning.
I need to,
For
I
me.
I need to come out and look at it.
You need to come out and see it.
I need to,
And
come out. Okay,
hardwood,
Bryce,
so-
You can borrow mine, though. I got one of each.
you got, okay, that's what I'll probably, 3:45. Hold on one second. Steve, come on in a second,
There's a
Steve.
good guy right there.
You can't work without surveyors.
I can hold off on this.
Just give us 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Bryce is quick.
11.
It'll be
Yeah,
quick.
11.
Okay, Bryce, go ahead. So discussion regarding Weaver Center insurance repair. Bryce,
Yes.
Bill,
Here's a copy if you wanna look at it. This is part of the damage that was done to the Merrill Lynch entrance back in June.
yeah. Oh, this is when the car hit it?
Yeah, so I've
Okay,
been dealing with Progressive
okay.
Auto Insurance
They're not very progressive.
and dealing with a guy, I think he's from New York. So we finally I had to get bids, so I got bids from local contractors, sent them in. He sent over this release form, talked to Cortland, and he just wanted you guys to look through it and review it, and he thought that probably the commissioner that's chair should probably sign it instead of.
So what's this saying? We're just
It's-
releasing him from all claims?
Yeah, basically, if there's any other costs that comes up, they're not gonna pay for it. Cortland's looked through it.
We've got some pretty good bids. Brad Bartle's come out
Yeah.
and bid it really well. He's been in contact with him, so.
Okay, so what do we, so you've got the bids, we know what it's gonna cost. They're gonna
Yep, it's
cover,
right here, $18,700,
Does
$14.
that come from a bid?
That's a bid from from Brad Bartow, actually.
Bartow, that's your buddy.
Yeah, it is.
Bronco's buddy.
Used to ride motorcycles with him back in 1973.
Yeah, good year. All
So
right.
other than that, like Cortland didn't have any concerns about anything that's in here. He just thought that this should come through the commission for approval. So
Okay,
that's it.
done.
That's all I was here for.
Wow, yeah, it'll only be quick.
Okay,
I'm
fine.
gonna fall asleep.
Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
On the
All
table.
right,
Thank
you're
you.
done. Dave, did you find something out for me?
Not anything
Is
great.
the sheriff not coming in?
What's that?
Not anything
So
great.
that's why we gave that update.
Oh.
They left, they all went to St. George, you remember?